Chapter 62. Even though it was late at night, the school leaders and teachers still held a board meeting to discuss the results and mistakes of the evening's gala. I told you this student is a black sheep. We must kick him out of the school. Director Chen slammed his fist on the table. His head was so agitated that it fell to the ground, blocking one of his eyes. It was a comical sight. Think about it. Because of him, someone almost died at the school gala. And he even taught foreigners how to swear. He embarrassed the city leaders. There was no such thing as an impenetrable wall. It was easy for the teachers to find out what had happened. Director Chen seized the opportunity and made up his mind to get rid of this thorn in his side. Although the other teachers had never had any direct conflicts with Li Yundong, they had more or less heard of Li Yundong's recent exploits. Teachers disliked students like him from the bottom of their hearts, especially Mr. Liu, who had a history with Li Yundong. Mr. Liu, who had clashed with Li Yundong at the school gate, took this opportunity to add insult to injury. I agree with Mr. Chen, he said. A student like him will cause trouble at our school sooner or later. Look at him these days, which day doesn't he cause trouble? The president of Tiannan University had gone abroad for an investigation, so the vice president was naturally in charge of all the affairs of the university. President Ku adjusted his reading glasses, coughed, and said, "But Li Yundong still has a good reputation among the exchange students at the University of Pennsylvania." Principal Ku, Li Yundong almost killed John with one punch and taught him how to swear. What kind of impression does he leave on people? People will think that our school is full of students like him. Principal Ku fell silent. After a while he said, "But no matter what, he contributed a lot to this gala. You could say that he was the one in the limelight. If we fire him for no reason, it won't be justifiable." Principal Ku still had a good impression of Li Yundong. If it weren't for Li Yundong, the gala would have been a tragedy. Even if he hadn't been implicated, Tiannan University would have inevitably been affected. Seeing that Principal Ku had spoken up for Li Yundong, Director Chen knew that it would be difficult for him to expel Li Yundong. Although he was reluctant to do so, there was nothing else he could say. Instead, he let out a muffled snort and fell silent. Headmaster Ku glanced at him and concluded the discussion. "Well, that's it. Let's move on to the next question." After the school committee meeting, Director Chen, who was walking at the back, was stopped by Professor Liu. "Director Chen, it's actually not difficult to get rid of those black sheep." "Oh?" Chief Chen asked in surprise. Teacher Liu smiled and said, "It's going to be the final exam soon. I've already asked around. This student has already skipped more than 40 classes this semester, and he can't take the exam for quite a few subjects. He can only take the exam for the remaining 2 compulsory subjects. As long as he fails these 2 subjects and doesn't get credit, then," Director Chen smiled and said, "So, we can persuade him to quit?" The 2 teachers looked at each other and smiled, feeling like they regretted not having met earlier. Compared to some unscrupulous teachers who were full of evil tricks, university students were much more innocent. That night, the campus forum was packed to the brim with students. The number of posts on the forum nearly crashed the server. After taking a shower in her dorm, Ching Ching sat in front of her computer and clicked on the Jianghu section of the campus forum. The first page of the forum was filled with selfies taken by students from that night's gala. The first highlighted post was Li Yundong's post. Ching Ching shouted excitedly at Feng Na, who was in the bathroom. "Nana." Seeing how excited Ching Ching was, the other roommates in the dormitory all came over to watch. After a while, Feng Na also came out with a towel wrapped around her, revealing her fair and long legs. While drying her wet hair, she asked, "What are you looking at? You look like you're on steroids." Feng Na laughed when she saw the video. It was a video of Li Yundong's performance at the gala. "What's so good about that? Didn't you guys see it already? Plus, it was taken with a cell phone. It's so blurry." Ching Ching turned around and laughed. "That's not the same. This is from a third person's perspective. Li Yundong looks so cool." Feng Na laughed. "That's right. Why else would I make a junior my idol?" The roommates in the dorm laughed. "Well, you've been plotting this for a long time, Nana. Hurry up and tell us how far you've gone." Feng Na's heart skipped a beat, and her expression darkened. Ching Ching quickly changed the topic. "Hey, look at the comments. They're super funny." Only then did the girls change their target. They gathered in front of the computer and read the comments one by one, then read them out in low voices. "Holy crap, Tiannan University has so many talents. When did such a fierce person appear? Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon? This is Crouching Tiger Hidden Dragon. So awesome, so awesome. I'm proud to be a student of Tiannan University. I'm proud." A true man doesn't show his face. If he does, he's not a true man. Upstairs, are you saying that Li Yundong is showing his true colors today? He's no longer a true man? A true man doesn't show his face. If he does, he's not a true man. The sixth floor is powerful. Watch and worship. The sixth floor is bright. Well, according to the sixth floor's theory, Li Yundong is still a true man because he didn't show his face. 500 years ago there was Zhang Sanfeng of Wudong Mountain. 500 years later there is Li Yundong of Tianan City, Jinren Li. Dear benefactors, convert to Buddhism as soon as possible. The sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and you will be saved. Those who are interested, please contact the disciple of Jinren Li of Dormitory 406. Phone number 134 *** 54657. Holy crap, you idiot. Jinren is a Taoist. Why are you a Buddhist here? Get out of here, bald donkey. How can a Taoist like you confuse the public? Tan Yu, I'm not talented, but I'm the 49th generation successor of Jinren Li. If you are interested in joining the Taoist sect, please contact Dormitory 108. Since I lost my mobile phone the day before yesterday, I haven't gotten a new SIM card, so I only left a secret code. The secret code is, Long Live Allah. Holy crap, the 49th generation successor of Jinren Li? Jinren Li is less than 20 years old this year, and he's already the 49th generation? Are you cell division or gene cloning? Long live Allah, that son of mine. The girls read the comments one by one and almost broke their bellies laughing. Ching Ching laughed so hard that tears flowed from her eyes. She collapsed on Feng Na and said, panting, I can't take it anymore. My intestines are going to break from laughing. Feng Na also laughed with tears in her eyes. These people are so funny. The girls laughed as they returned to their beds, logged into their computers one after another, and followed Hu Tian and Hu Di in the school's Jianghu section. In just an hour, Li Yundong's video post had more than 1,000 comments. When it broke 1,000 comments, the students of Tianan University couldn't help but exclaim, this is definitely the most powerful post in the 10 years since the founding of Tianan University. It can be called the first divine post in Tianan University. But the most powerful thing about this post was not the jaw-dropping popularity of the post, but the strong attack power of the post's fans. After Li Yundong's video post came out, many people had been sourly accusing the video of being fake and saying with certainty, how can there be kung fu that can hit people from a distance in the world? Did Li Yundong practice the 18 dragons subduing palms or the Buddha's palm? I think this is another conspiracy of a so-called Qigong master. But soon these comments were attacked by the students who had watched the party that night. These bored students used all kinds of sharp, shrewd, and unkind words to attack the conspiracy theorists. At first, the conspiracy theorists could still argue and refute with strong arguments, but as the battle went on, more and more students returned to their dormitories and logged into the school's website. More and more people joined Li Yundong's fan club and attacked anyone who said bad things about Li Yundong. Gradually, the conspiracy theorists began to lose ground, especially when 18 generations of their ancestors and 18 generations of their descendants were killed. One by one they began to lose the number one divine post in Tianan University. When Li Yundong reached the 2000th post, the last one to hold his ground, Li He, who went by the name True Love Forever, finally lost. For a moment the Li Mi, who had no ancestral graves to dig up, looked around blankly and had nowhere to vent their anger. Just then, someone who had nothing better to do went to the gossip section and created a post to vote for the most popular young man on campus. The post listed all the school hunks at Tianan University. As a result, the locusts in the Jianghu section immediately turned to the gossip section, and in an instant, the post was covered by more than 1,000 comments. Li Yundong was named the most popular young man at Tianan University with 95% of the votes. The previous school hunk, Zhao Yujin, wasn't even nominated. But that wasn't the end of it. Cheng Cheng was still not satisfied, so she secretly created another post. It was titled, Who do you think is your perfect male partner? As a result, Li Yundong's strong female fan club once again pushed Li Yundong to the top of the list. The voting rate was as high as 97%. In for a penny, in for a pound, Ching Ching opened another post. Who do you think is your perfect female partner? As Feng Na's best friend, Ching Ching naturally voted for her sister. Feng Na's roommates also voted for Feng Na. But this time, the results were out of the girls' expectations. Li Yundong's mysterious girlfriend won an astonishing number of votes, beating out Tianan University's campus belle, Zhou Qin, and department belle, Feng Na. This is a conspiracy. This is definitely a conspiracy. Ching Ching was furious. This is the boys' revenge on us girls for supporting Li Yundong just now. Chapter 63. As the saying goes, there is no smoke without fire. The boys and girls immediately launched a fierce battle because of this matter. The girls kept listing Li Yundong's good points, such as his ability to fight and fight, his humor, his handsome appearance, his gentleness and consideration towards his girlfriend, and so on. They used this to criticize the current boys for their lack of responsibility, lack of ambition, lack of interest, barbaric and rude, trap, and so on. The boys naturally didn't want to be outdone by the girls. They listed Su Chan's good points one by one. She's beautiful but not arrogant. She's cute and easygoing. She's not like the girls nowadays who talk about money and worship money. She's tacky and disgusting. Most importantly, she's prettier than a movie star, but she doesn't have a single branded item on her. She's simple and plain. In this day and age, the battle between men and women could never be decided. Women scolded there is no good man in the world on all kinds of occasions, and men also repeatedly scolded there is no woman who is not vain and doesn't worship money. Was there a rich man who seduced women and fought to be their mistress first, or was there a beautiful woman who tried to promote from a mistress to a wife first? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This was a question worth considering. When the topic gradually touched on sensitive social issues, everyone inevitably felt the weight of the topic. Some people began to slowly withdraw from the debate and meditate. The speed of the gossip forums posts slowed down significantly. But suddenly an ID called "I'm an otaku, I'm not afraid of anyone" suddenly left a comment on the thread, "Who's the perfect female partner around you? F***CK. Who posted this? How dare you fantasize about my Su-chan? Do you want to die?" This sentence immediately caused a huge uproar. Almost at the same time, dozens of divers and hundreds of online students left comments to curse the poster, 99% of whom were men. But after a while the ID said something that caused the forum to explode. F***CK. What's wrong with you guys? I'm Li Yundong and Su-chan is my girlfriend. I'll beat up anyone who tries to hit on her. Li Yundong? It's Li Yundong. Li Yundong is online. This news instantly spread throughout the entire forum and all the campus QQ groups. The students who had been a little dispirited were suddenly excited as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Some of the students who had already fallen asleep were also awakened and logged back into the school forum. Many people questioned the true identity of this ID and said, "How can you prove that you are Li Yundong?" I said I was Li Yunxi. Li Yundong was surfing the internet on his new home laptop. After he came home, he took a shower and practiced his chi for a while. He was bored out of his mind and wanted to go to bed, but too many things had happened that night. He wanted to talk to Su-chan about how she knew Kung Fu, but he didn't know how to bring it up. Caught between a rock and a hard place, Li Yundong turned on his computer and logged into the school forum. Before Su-chan had appeared in his life, he had been a frequent visitor to this forum. However, at that time he had been a typical otaku. He wasn't famous in school, so naturally no one paid attention to his words and actions. However, things were different now. After he logged onto the forum and casually said something, it immediately caused a huge uproar. How can I prove that I am Li Yundong? Li Yundong couldn't help laughing when he saw such a reply. How can I prove that I am Li Yundong? Li Yundong replied. Immediately, someone on the forum who had nothing better to do said, "Post to pages. Report your 3 measurements." Downstairs, a serious person said, "It's simple. Post your phone number and we'll make a call to verify it. Then we'll know." Li Yundong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. How do you know it's me? Can all of you recognize my voice? Li Yundong didn't try to shirk the responsibility, so half of the people on the internet began to believe that this ID was Li Yundong. They couldn't help but excitedly come up with ideas. I'm Li Yundong's classmate. I can recognize his voice, an ID called Taeyang Sangzi said. Immediately, someone praised and applauded the ID called Taeyang Sangzi to call Li Yundong. Li Yundong was so annoyed by these people on the internet that he posted his phone number on the internet. Almost as soon as he posted it, a call came in. Li Yundong picked up and said, "Hello? Who is this?" "Lily, it's really Li Yundong." A girl on the other side of the phone yelled excitedly, "It's really him?" A voice that Li Yundong was very familiar with came from the other side of the phone. "No way. Let me hear it." Cell phones nowadays had the ability to store phone numbers, so even though Sun Li had contacted Li Yundong a few times before, she couldn't remember his number at all. She had also joined in the fun on the forum before, but now that she realized that it really was Li Yundong's number, she grabbed the phone in surprise. "Hello. Hello. Li Yundong, is that you? My dear class rep, Li Yundong said with a wry smile. Why do I have to call you everywhere? Sun Li burst into laughter. Congratulations, Li Yundong. You're famous now. You're the most popular student in our school. Li Yundong laughed. What the hell? Who cares about that? Hurry up, do you know the moderator of the school board? Delete that post about my girlfriend. I don't like it. Yo, Sun Li said with a drawl. You just got famous and you're already pointing fingers? You really do change when you're famous, huh? Li Yundong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My dear class rep, just do me a favor. I can't help you, Sun Li said with a smile. Good luck. With that, she hung up the phone. While Sun Li was on the phone with Li Yundong, her roommates had already posted the news online that it was indeed Li Yundong's number. It really is Li Yundong. I just talked to him. Students who want to hear Li Yundong's magnetic voice, hurry up and call him. His phone is going to explode soon. As expected, as soon as Li Yundong hung up the phone with Sun Li, an unfamiliar number came through. The moment Li Yundong picked up the call, he heard a pleasant northeastern accent. It was a man. Is this Li Yundong? He said. Oh my, it really is you, bro. Oh my, you're so awesome tonight. Let me tell you, I admire you so much right now. What? You don't believe me? Those were my heartfelt words. They were absolutely true. Hey, are you listening? Hey. Li Yundong hung up the phone with a strange look on his face. Where did this psycho come from? He muttered. But as soon as he hung up, another number came in. This time it was a woman, but her voice was as rough as Zhang Fei's. Oh my god, are you really Li Yundong? Li Yundong asked in a Shaanxi accent. Oh my god, are you really Li Yundong? Li Yundong was so startled by the voice that he immediately dialed the number. But as soon as he dialed the number, another call came through. Li Yundong was furious. He turned off the phone and tossed it to the side. By then the school forum had exploded with activity. Those who managed to get through to Li Yundong were showing off in the forum, while those who couldn't were sighing in despair. Li Yundong couldn't help but laugh as he read the posts on the forum. These people really have nothing better to do. Su Chan came out of the bathroom after taking a shower. She was wearing Li Yundong's loose casual shirt, which was completely bare inside. Her breasts were slightly protruding, and she was wearing a pair of Li Yundong's loose pajama pants. Her delicate toes peeked out of her sandals in a mischievous manner. What's wrong with you? Who are you talking to? Su Chan noticed that Li Yundong was sulking in front of her desk, so she sat down next to him with a smile on her face. Li Yundong looked at the beautiful girl in front of him and pretended to be angry. Someone is plotting against you and I'm jealous. Su Chan giggled and suddenly kissed Li Yundong on the cheek. Then she took his arm and said, Sir, this girl belongs to you alone. No one can take her away from you. Really? Li Yundong pretended to look skeptical. Really? Su Chan's eyes turned into crescent moons. Her smile was so sweet that it seemed to melt Li Yundong. Yes, sir, she said in a sweet voice. Li Yundong was very satisfied. He smiled and hugged the girl. Well, let me verify your identity. Come here, uncle will check your body. Su Chan giggled, stood up and ran. As she ran, she laughed and ran into her bedroom. Then she poked her head out and made a face at Li Yundong. No, you can't do anything bad to me. Li Yundong's previous unhappiness disappeared. He pretended to be a horny grandmother wolf and pounced on Su Chan. I'm going to eat you up today. Su Chan screamed and slammed the door shut. Then she let out a peal of laughter. While the young couple was laughing and playing, the school's forum was finally flooded by excited students. The server was completely paralyzed, and the students had no choice but to turn off their computers and return to reality from the virtual world. Zhou Qin rested her chin on one hand and patiently watched the video of Li Yundong that she had downloaded. Her usually expressionless face now had a gentle smile on it. He will come to my party tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. However, when Zhou Qin's gaze fell on the forum page that had already been closed, her two beautiful eyebrows immediately frowned slightly again. Who is the mysterious girl next to Li Yundong? Zhou Qin sighed faintly. Before she could get anything she wanted. This time she had her eyes on a boy, but this boy belonged to someone else. Could she still have him? Zhou Qin's thoughts drifted far, far away. Chapter 64. As soon as he walked into the classroom, the students who had been chatting suddenly quieted down, and then looked at Li Yundong. Ah, the superstar is here. Class President Sun Li exclaimed, pointing a finger at Li Yundong. The students in the class were all fired up. They rushed to Li Yundong like a tidal wave and handed him their notebooks and papers one by one. "Superstar, hurry up and give us your autograph. Jinrenli, take me as your disciple, hee. Of course, before that, please sign your name." Li Yundong was shocked. He hadn't expected that after one night, these students would still be so excited. He waved his hand and said pretentiously, "Alas, I've always stressed that we should keep a low profile, but you always give me flowers and smiles. It's really embarrassing." The students roared with laughter. Even Sun Li was guffawing. She pointed at Li Yundong and yelled, "He's acting like a big shot. What are we going to do about it?" The students in the class laughed and said, "Take off your clothes, take off your pants, and throw your shoes." Seeing that the situation was not good, Li Yundong hurriedly tried to escape through the door. When he turned his head, he saw Chris, John, and the other students attending the International University Exchange meeting walking over. Compared to the enthusiastic students in the class, Li Yundong was more afraid of facing these two foreigners. No matter what, he had played a prank on the foreigners and made a fool of himself. This was wrong after all. "Brothers and sisters." Li Yundong quickly turned around and begged for mercy. He cupped his hands and said, "Everyone listen to me. I will definitely get the autographs for everyone. Now that the foreigners are here, we can't let them see us make a fool of ourselves, right? We were born from the same root, why are we in such a hurry to destroy each other?" The students roared in agreement. Some of the bolder girls stole glances at Li Yundong as they giggled. "What's the rush?" Li Yundong's eyes widened. When Li Yundong sat down in his seat, he let out a long sigh of relief. "Why did they ask for your autograph?" Su Chan asked in confusion. Li Yundong thought for a moment and said, "Well, some people think that you are a star or that you have the potential to be a star, so they come to ask for your autograph. On the one hand, they can show off to others, and on the other hand, they can sell it when you become famous in the future." Su Chan's eyes lit up. "Autographs can be sold for money? If I become a big star in the future, of course I can sell it," Li Yundong said. Su Chan giggled. "Then I want an autograph too." Li Yundong couldn't help but laugh at her cute appearance. "What do you want an autograph for?" Su Chan smiled and said, "I want a lot of your autographs. I'll be rich in the future." Li Yundong burst into laughter and ruffled the girl's hair affectionately. "Idiot," he said. "Too many signatures makes them worthless. Besides, my signature is worthless." Su Chan pouted, her interest waning. "Is that so?" Li Yundong was tickled by the girl's cuteness. He couldn't help but lean over and whisper, "If you want, I'll only give you an autograph. Then the autograph on your hand will be worth some money." Su Chan's gloomy expression immediately brightened up. Her face lit up with joy and she quickly asked, "Really?" Li Yundong tried hard to hold back his laughter and said, "It's more real than a pearl. But do you have a piece of paper or book for me to sign?" Su Chan had only accompanied Li Yundong to school, and she had been empty-handed the whole time. She suddenly looked embarrassed. "I don't have any. What should I do?" Li Yundong whispered in Su Chan's ear, "I can sign it on your body." His breath tickled Su Chan's ear and her whole body went limp. She giggled. "You're so annoying. You're not shy at all." Li Yundong and Su Chan were getting closer and closer. Some of the things he had been afraid to say in the past were getting more and more fluent and bold. He was about to tease the girl again when he saw someone sitting down next to him. Li Yundong turned his head and saw that Chris was looking at him angrily. Then a few people also sat down in the back row. John stretched his head over and said to Li Yundong with a smile, "Take a loss." Li Yundong shook his head and sighed. "You two are so patient. 2 more days and you'll go back to America. Why do you have to do this? It's good to leave a good impression on yourself. It's not like Tiannan City University doesn't have any scenic spots. You can go there and see more, okay?" John had been listening to Li Yundong speak Chinese in a daze. He couldn't understand a single word at all. When he finally heard the last word, he understood it. Okay. How could he not understand? He didn't care what Li Yundong said. He quickly nodded his head like a rattle to show his existence. Okay. Li Yundong was amused by John and burst out laughing. Chris, who was beside him, suddenly turned her head and shouted at John, "Shut up! Shut up!" John immediately fell silent. He looked at Chris with a wronged expression. "Chris, what did I do to offend you again?" "This guy is trying to drive us away," Chris said. "He doesn't like us." Hardadef's face was suddenly full of sadness and pain. He shouted at Li Yundong, "You've hurt my heart by doing this. I sincerely and seriously want to worship you as my master." It was a pity that Li Yundong couldn't understand a single word of his sincere confession. After Chris translated it for him, Li Yundong thought for a moment and said, "Since you feel that you are very sincere, I will also tell you very sincerely that unless you learn Chinese and settle down in China, then I can teach you. Otherwise it is absolutely impossible." Chris had come to Li Yundong today because, as international exchange students, they wanted to listen to the courses at Tiannan University. On the other hand, she had returned to her residence last night. After thinking about it, she still felt unreconciled. She had never been treated like this since she was a child. Apprenticeship was secondary. The most important thing was to fight for justice. Americans were free and undisciplined by nature, but the national conditions of the world's most powerful country had cultivated an arrogant mentality of "I am the best in the world" in their bones. When Chris heard Li Yundong's words, she was so angry that she forgot to translate. She directly shouted at Li Yundong, "You have no sincerity at all. You are destroying the friendship between the two countries." Fine, going to the main line, this was really a big accusation. Li Yundong was eloquent. He sneered and said, "I said, it's your business whether you want to be my disciple or not. It's my business whether I want to accept an apprentice or not. Although your country is powerful, it's not powerful enough to force me to accept you as my apprentice, right? Don't talk about the friendship between the two countries. It sounds disgusting. Your country has done a lot of things that go back on their words." The exchange students at the University of Pennsylvania also understood Chinese. When they heard this, they immediately advised, "Chris, forget it. Don't force yourself. Maybe they do have such a rule." "Yes, Chris, I heard that Chinese people are really very particular about accepting apprentices." These people advised her one after another. Chris was known as a China expert in university, and she also studied China's Chinese language and literature and ancient history of China. She was known as the Venus of wisdom and beauty in the International Academy. How could she not understand these words? Chris took a deep breath and her anger gradually subsided. However, there was a faint stubborn look in her eyes. She lowered her voice and said, "I won't give up. Sooner or later you will accept me as your apprentice. Of course there is also him." Chris pointed to John, who was sitting in the back row. Li Yundong felt that this foreign girl really had the personality of a Hunan person. She was so domineering. She knew it was impossible, but she still did it. Li Yundong smiled and said, "Well, let's wait and see. I'm very curious. What will you do to make me accept you as my master?" John wanted to be apprenticed to Li Yundong because he really loved all kinds of fighting skills in this world. Especially when Li Yundong had knocked someone down with a punch, it had made him even more like a drug addict. How could he give up the opportunity to learn? Before, Chris wanted to be apprenticed to Li Yundong as a master, but it was nothing more than a joke. Now that the joke had become real, this foreign girl's stubborn temper had come back. Li Yundong ignored these foreigners. He glanced out of the corner of his eye and saw Zhou Qin and Ding Nan enter the classroom. Ding Nan saw Li Yundong at first glance, then gently nudged Zhou Qin with her elbow and gestured in Li Yundong's direction with her eyes. Zhou Qin also saw Li Yundong, and a touch of softness flashed in her eyes. She nodded slightly to Li Yundong as a greeting. This action couldn't be more ordinary for others, but for Zhou Qin, it was earth-shattering. In the classroom there were people who knew this cold-faced girl. Suddenly they were so surprised that a fist could be stuffed into their mouths. Zhou Qin actually took the initiative to greet someone? She also likes Li Yundong? I heard that she's having a birthday party today. Did she invite you? No, but Sun Li, the class monitor, was invited. And I heard that most of the guests are handsome guys and pretty girls. Tisk tsk. I wonder what her birthday party will be like. As the students whispered to each other, the teacher arrived at the classroom, and the classroom slowly quieted down. Li Yundong dragged Su Chan out of the classroom as if he were on a break. They still had classes in the afternoon, and there was no way they could go back to their own home for lunch. So they headed straight for the cafeteria. As soon as they entered the cafeteria, everyone in the cafeteria turned to look at them. One of them was Tiannan University's most popular girl, and the other was Tiannan University's universally acknowledged perfect girlfriend. How could a pair like this not attract attention? Su Chan was a carefree person, but she still felt uncomfortable being stared at by so many people in the cafeteria. She reached out and tugged on Li Yundong's sleeve. "Why are they looking at me?" "You're too pretty," Li Yundong said. "That's why they're looking at you." Su Chan's face broke into a smile. "Really? It's fake." Li Yundong laughed. Su Chan's face fell. "You're so annoying." The two of them bought some food in the cafeteria and sat down. No one at the table approached them again. It wasn't that they didn't want to, but that Li Yundong and Su Chan's aura was too strong. Li Yundong looked around and saw that no one was within 5 meters of him. Suddenly he felt a sense of loneliness as if a lifetime had passed. He let out a long sigh. So this is what it feels like to be a star, he thought. Chapter 65. Oh, it's you? Li Yundong chuckled. Feng Na was wearing a white short-sleeved blouse and a pair of jeans that accentuated her slender and straight legs. Her figure was slim, youthful, and full of vitality. Coupled with her sweet smile, Li Yundong was a little dazed when he saw her. What? Feng Na giggled but didn't sit down right away. Instead, she teased Li Yundong. Are you trying to act like a big shot now? Cheng Cheng, who was always by Li Yundong's side, also walked over with her plate. You're trying to act like a big shot now? No way, you should at least give us your autograph before you act like a big shot. Li Yundong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You guys are making fun of me too? No way, right? Come on, sit down. If you don't, I'll be a national sinner. Feng Na giggled and sat down across from Li Yundong with Cheng Cheng. By the way, was that really you on the forum yesterday? Feng Na asked with interest. Li Yundong was so angry at the thought that he still didn't dare to turn on his phone. Was me. Li Yundong said grumpily. Feng Na and Cheng Cheng burst into laughter. Feng Na laughed so hard that she was rocking back and forth. That phone number is also yours? Li Yundong lowered his head and said in a muffled voice as he ate, Of course. Feng Na laughed. You're crazy. I can't believe you posted your phone number on the internet. Stop fooling around and get a new SIM card. Don't you know how many pretty girls want to give you love letters and ask you to get a room? Li Yundong almost spat out the food from his nose. No way. Are all girls so bold and unrestrained nowadays? Feng Na smiled without saying a word. Cheng Cheng said, Hey Li Yundong, turn on your phone and see how many missed calls and messages you have. Li Yundong couldn't help but be curious. He took out his phone from his pocket and pressed the power button. After a while his phone started ringing like crazy. Li Yundong desperately pressed the hang-up button, but it didn't work. There was a message every second and it didn't stop ringing for 5 minutes. Feng Na and Cheng Cheng couldn't help but sigh. What do you mean by popular? That's what it means to be popular. I'm so jealous. Li Yundong was so angry that he directly removed the battery of the phone, then threw the phone on the table and said angrily, Are you envious? I can't even use my phone. I wasted a card for no reason. Feng Na winked at Li Yundong and said, How does it feel to be surrounded by stars? How does it feel to be surrounded and chased after? Li Yundong rolled his eyes at her. You want to know? That's simple. Why don't you become famous too? Feng Na sighed faintly and said with a self-pitying look on her face, I want to do that too, but I don't have the ability to do it. She's not like Su Chan, who is the center of attention wherever she goes. Su Chan's ears perked up when she heard them talking about her. Her eyes curved into crescent moons as she smiled. Are you complimenting me? I like to hear people praise me more, praise me more. Feng Na and Cheng Cheng had never interacted with Su Chan before, and they were afraid that this ridiculously beautiful girl would be difficult to approach, so they deliberately praised Su Chan. Who would have thought that Su Chan would be so good-natured and unpretentious? Her words made Feng Na and Cheng Cheng burst into laughter. Li Yundong smiled and poked Su Chan's nose with his chopsticks. You're so vain. Su Chan made a face at Li Yundong. Feng Na was jealous of Su Chan and Li Yundong's intimacy, but Su Chan's cuteness was alluring to both men and women. It only took one sentence for Su Chan to leave a good impression on Feng Na. Feng Na couldn't help but speak up for Su Chan. You're wrong, Feng Na said. Who in this world isn't vain? Li Yundong tapped his nose with a pair of chopsticks. I'm just a nobody, he said. Feng Na and Li Yundong were very familiar with each other, so she knew that he was a playful person who didn't care about trifles. Oh, come on, Feng Na said bluntly. No one in this world isn't vain at all. So many people like you. Aren't you happy at all? Aren't you happy at all? Don't you feel satisfied when a girl says, Li Yundong, I love you? Li Yundong thought about it seriously for a moment. I admit that I feel happy when a girl confesses to me, he said. But if a girl confesses to me, I might feel happy too. But it won't be as exaggerated as you think. After saying that, Li Yundong pinched Su Chan's round, jade-like earlobe. Because I already have a girl, he said with a smile. I only want to drink one ladle of beautiful water. Su Chan giggled and dodged Li Yundong's hand. Then she pretended to hit Li Yundong with her chopsticks. It's so ticklish. Although Su Chan said it was annoying, she was beaming with joy. There was a deep sense of joy in her voice. Cheng Cheng glanced at Feng Na and couldn't help but sigh. Feng Na was flustered by Ching Cheng's stare. She forced a smile and said, Li Yundong, you're so stingy. You like your girlfriend so much but you let her wear men's clothes. I've seen her wear a set of clothes for several days. Li Yundong was stunned for a moment. Although he was a clean person, he didn't pay much attention to his clothes and appearance. He really hadn't thought about buying a few sets of clothes for Su Chan. Of course, the most important thing was that Su Chan hadn't asked for them. Li Yundong turned his head and looked at the little girl beside him. He saw that the girl was wearing a pair of spaghetti pants that he had worn before, which looked a little loose and fat. The cultural casual shirt she was wearing made her look even more petite. Su Chan tried hard to wipe out the braised pork on her plate with a spoon. She blinked at Li Yundong, who was looking at her. What are you looking at? She asked. Li Yundong smiled. How about I take you to buy some new clothes today? Su Chan said disapprovingly, don't we have clothes at home? Why should we buy them? Li Yundong chuckled. Those are my clothes. You can't wear my clothes all the time, can you? Su Chan immediately put down the spoon in her hand and looked at Li Yundong. You don't like me? She said pitifully. You don't want to give me clothes to wear? Li Yundong laughed and pinched Su Chan's cheek. Idiot. How can a girl wear boys' clothes all the time? Su Chan slapped Li Yundong's hand away and made a face at him. Why not? By the way, the food here isn't good. It's not as good as your cooking. Li Yundong laughed. Of course. This is a big pot. How can it be better than a small pot with a small stove? Feng Na looked at Li Yundong in surprise. You know how to cook? Li Yundong said proudly. Of course I'm a chef. Li Yundong said to Su Chan, isn't that right, girl? Su Chan wrinkled her nose at Li Yundong, causing her nose to wrinkle. It's not delicious at all. Feng Na and Ching Ching burst out laughing. See? You're being ridiculed. Li Yundong didn't expect Su Chan to ridicule him in public. You stupid girl, he said angrily. You always take the food away from me. I don't even have the food to eat. Why do you take it away if it's not good? Su Chan puffed up her cheeks. What if I say it's good and they want to eat it too? It's already not enough for 2 people, but it's even less for 4 people. Li Yundong laughed so hard that he leaned back. He really loved this little girl in his heart. He pinched the little girl's pink cheeks hard and said, Idiot, can't I do a little more? When Su Chan saw that Li Yundong was about to pinch her face, she was so scared that she quickly covered her cheeks with her hands and jumped back. With this jump, an "aya" sound came from behind him, followed by the sound of a metal plate falling to the ground. Li Yundong turned around and saw Zhuang Hui holding a plate of food. There was soup splashed all over her clothes. The other girl beside her had overturned her plate, and her dress was covered in soup. Are you blind? Are you blind? The girl who had overturned her plate looked down and saw that her dress was stained. She screamed. Su Chan was shocked. I'm sorry, I didn't see. She apologized. When Feng Na saw that Su Chan was also covered in soup, she took out a napkin from her purse and handed it to Li Yundong. Li Yundong took the napkin and wiped the soup off Su Chan's arms and clothes. I'm sorry, he said apologetically. We didn't mean to. Zhuang Hui's eyes lit up when she saw Li Yundong. Li Yundong. The girl's anger dissipated as soon as she heard Li Yundong's name. She wiped the soup off her clothes with her handkerchief and looked at Li Yundong carefully. You're Li Yundong? Li Yundong nodded and said, I'm sorry for dirtying your clothes. The girl ignored Li Yundong. She moved closer to Zhuang Hui and looked Su Chan up and down. So this is your love rival? She whispered. Let me teach her a lesson for you. Zhuang Hui wanted to dissuade the girl, but when she saw Su Chan looking helpless and pitiful, her heart filled with jealousy. This girl is so disgusting and pretentious. It's her fault, but she's acting like she's being wronged. Li Yundong can't be fooled by a girl who's good at acting. People with complicated minds couldn't help but think of the world as complicated. Zhuang Hui's narrow-mindedness couldn't be understood by others. Do you know how much my clothes cost? The girl who had been accompanying her yelled at Su Chan. Li Yundong could tell that the girl was a student of the art faculty with a pretty face and a good figure. However, the shrewish tone in her voice made Li Yundong think that she was a chef who cooked fried rice, and a chef who cooked Sichuan cuisine. Li Yundong couldn't bear to see Su Chan get bullied, so he pulled the girl behind him and said with a frown, We've already apologized for what happened today. Su Chan poked her head out from behind Li Yundong and said meekly, I really didn't mean it. If you want, I can help you clean it up. The girl laughed and said with a look of disdain, Clean? Do you even know what brand I'm wearing? Christian Dior. It's Dior. Do you think it's because of the crappy stuff you're wearing? Su Chan had no idea what Dior was. she said blankly. Dior? How much is it? I'll pay for it. The girl sneered. Pay for it? Can you afford it? All the clothes you're wearing can't even compare to a single thread on my body. Su Chan's face turned red. Li Yundong was furious. He raised his eyebrows and glared at the girl. What did you say? Before Li Yundong became famous at the gala, few people dared to look him in the eye. Now that he was a celebrity at school, his glare doubled. Not only did the girl's aura weaken, even Zhuang Hui, who had been waiting to watch the show, was frightened. Zhuang Hui tugged at Su Chan's arm. All right, let's go. Chapter 66. Forget it, Li Yundong said. Don't bother with a girl like her. She's obviously a gold digger. Feng Na laughed. Look at all the famous brands she's wearing. Her clothes are from Dior, her bag is from LV, her shoes are from Chanel, and her perfume is from CK. These are all high-end goods. Li Yundong, who was still sulking, suddenly froze. He stared at Feng Na and said, You can recognize so many famous brands? Feng Na's smile was slightly awkward. She was afraid that Li Yundong would also see her as a gold digger. Ching Ching, who was standing beside Li Yundong, had sensed something amiss. Li Yundong, she said. Do you really think that no matter how much a woman is not a gold digger or vain, she still doesn't care about her appearance? Famous brands are every woman's favorite, unless she's not a woman. Li Yundong was deeply touched by Ching Cheng's words. He glanced at Su Chan and shook his head. Forget it, he said. I'm going back to class. He took a few steps with Su Chan, then suddenly turned around and asked, Oh right. Where is Zhou Qin's birthday party tonight? Feng Na said, 7:30 p.m. at the Xingyuan Hotel. Li Yundong was used to staying at home, so he had no idea what kind of hotel it was. He was too lazy to ask, so he nodded and took Su Chan back to class. There was still some time before class started, so the classroom was almost empty. Li Yundong and Su Chan were sitting at the back of the class, staring blankly into space. Li Yundong couldn't stop thinking about what Feng Na had said. Su Chan, on the other hand, felt sleepy. She kept yawning. Su Chan, Li Yundong said suddenly. Do you want me to take you to change into a new set of clothes today? Su Chan buried her head under Li Yundong's arm and said in a greasy voice, No, I'm sleepy. Let me sleep for a while. Li Yundong had never had a girlfriend before, so he didn't know how to get along with girls. Hearing Su Chan's words, his mind began to waver. Huh? Really? Su Chan narrowed her eyes and curled up into a ball like a kitten. No, this is good. Li Yundong thought back to the classic aqua red dress Su Chan was wearing. That was the dress she was wearing when he first met her. He just couldn't figure out where it was. Could it be that she kept it? It was a pity that this long dress was too old-fashioned and too much of a stage. Otherwise, if she wore it outside, she would definitely be able to shock a large number of people, saving those who looked down on her from barking at her. Li Yundong remembered that when the little girl had first appeared by his side, she had appeared on the school campus in this red ancient dress, which had stunned a large number of people. He couldn't help but smile at the corner of his mouth. He stared quietly at Su Chan, who was sleeping soundly. He didn't dare to move a muscle for fear that he would wake up the girl who had been given to him by the heavens. When it was almost time for class, more and more people entered the classroom. Su Chan rubbed her eyes and sat up. At this time, Zhou Qin entered the classroom alone. Zhou Qin looked at Li Yundong, hesitated for a moment, then walked up to him. She first nodded politely and reservedly to Su Chan, then looked at Li Yundong with a pair of beautiful eyes and said, Don't forget it at 7:30 tonight. After that, she smiled at Li Yundong and winked playfully. Zhou Qin had an almost perfect oval face. Her eyes were like stars and her eyebrows were as thick as ink. Her facial features were like those of a beautiful lady in a meticulous painting. She was wearing a dark blue gown and a brown plaid skirt. She was both elegant and dignified, exuding the aura of a lady from a noble family. In the past, Li Yundong was used to this campus belle's calm way of speaking. Suddenly seeing her playfulness like that of a young girl, he was immediately stunned. At this moment, Li Yundong felt as if his eyes had lit up. Zhou Qin's smile really made him feel as if he was looking back and smiling at 100 charming people. The campus belle deserved to be called the campus belle. Even though he had confessed to her before and been rejected by her, he still couldn't put on a serious face to her now. It was obvious how powerful her beauty was. Li Yundong couldn't help but nod and said, It starts at 7:30? Won't I starve to death by then? Do you take care of my meals or not? Zhou Qin was stunned for a moment, then immediately understood that Li Yundong must have never been to this kind of banquet. He must have regarded this kind of banquet as a meal. She smiled and said, "Come early, there will be something to eat." Li Yundong laughed and said, "Okay, I'll take care of my meals. I'll definitely go if I can eat and drink for free." Zhou Qin smiled and said, "Then it's a deal." Li Yundong nodded at her. After watching her graceful and moving figure leave, he withdrew his gaze and found that Su Chan was still sitting next to him. Li Yundong suddenly felt very ashamed. Su Chan was sitting next to him, so why was he staring at her like that? Li Yundong quickly gathered his thoughts and muttered to himself, "It's not that I'm too playful, it's that the girl is too beautiful." In the afternoon, Li Yundong had an English class. Chris and the others didn't show up for the class. Li Yundong was happy to have a good night's sleep in class. After school, Li Yundong waved his hand and took Su Chan to a taxi. They went directly to the Xinyuan Hotel. When they arrived at the Xinyuan Hotel, Li Yundong held Su Chan's hand and stood at the entrance of the hotel in a daze. This was a 6-star luxury hotel with 58 floors. It was the only hotel in Tianan City that was more than a 5-star hotel. The hotel was resplendent, like a large crystal spire at the top and bottom. The entire building exuded a noble and magnificent dark gold. Su Chan's eyes widened as she looked at the hotel. Although she was a cultivator, she had never seen such a luxurious place before. There were 4 revolving doors at the entrance, and there was a flower basket in front of each revolving door. Li Yundong noticed that the flower baskets were filled with freshly picked flowers. "Oh my!" Li Yundong was shocked. He felt a little uncomfortable in such a luxurious place, but fortunately, the hotel staff did not have the habit of looking down on him. They still respectfully welcomed Li Yundong and Su Chan into the hotel, their eyes lingering on Su Chan for a moment. The floor of the Xinyuan Hotel was made of transparent glass, and there was a half-meter hollowed-out space on the floor. There were all kinds of exquisite stones in the space. Coupled with the soft and elegant lighting, it made people feel as if they were walking on clouds. What a world of debauchery and debauchery. Li Yundong sighed inwardly. If he hadn't come to Zhou Qin's birthday party, he probably wouldn't have had the chance to attend such an occasion for the rest of his life. The people who went in and out of this kind of place were all people of the upper class. They were all dressed in suits and leather shoes, and their hair was combed straight and shiny. Most of the women around them were also dressed in gorgeous and luxurious clothes. When these people passed through the lobby and saw Li Yundong and Su Chan, all of their eyes lit up because of the handsome man and beautiful woman. But when their eyes fell on the two of them, they couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. It's really a pity that a good horse is matched with a broken saddle. Li Yundong wanted to go straight to the venue of Zhou Qin's party, but he was embarrassed to find that he had arrived too early. There wasn't even a sign at the entrance of the lobby to welcome guests. Excuse me. Li Yundong bit the bullet and stopped a waiter. "Where is Zhou Qin's birthday party being held?" "Zhou Qin?" The waiter was stunned for a moment and was just about to shake his head. But the lobby manager next to him noticed Li Yundong and Su Chan as soon as they entered the lobby. As soon as he heard the waiter's question, he immediately came up and said, "Are you Miss Zhou Qin? Hello, may I ask who you are?" "I'm her classmate," Li Yundong said. "Oh, please go up to the 3rd floor, turn right and you'll see it," the lobby manager said. Li Yundong nodded politely to the lobby manager. "Thank you." The two of them took the elevator to the 3rd floor. Sure enough, Li Yundong saw a sign with red paper and black characters at the right corner. He smiled and said, "We're here, but it seems too early." "Just the two of us? Isn't there another one over there?" Su Chan pointed to a boy who was smoking at the door. Li Yundong smiled and walked up with Su Chan. "Excuse me, is this the place where Zhou Qin's birthday party is being held?" The boy was dressed in an Armani suit. He was handsome, but there was a gloomy air between his eyebrows. He was smoking with his back to Li Yundong. When he heard the noise, he turned around and looked at Li Yundong. He was shocked. This boy is so handsome. Although he was also a handsome boy, he was naturally narrow-minded. He couldn't stand people who were more handsome than him, let alone a boy like Li Yundong who was full of masculinity. The boy's voice was full of hostility. "Who are you?" he asked. Li Yundong smiled and said, "I'm Zhou Qin's classmate. She invited me to the party." When the boy heard this, he was shocked and angry. Her father had always arranged the guests for Zhou Qin's birthday party. Zhou Qin rarely invited people herself, but this boy was actually invited by Zhou Qin herself. The boy suddenly became jealous. He snorted coldly in his heart and glanced at Li Yundong. Although he saw that Li Yundong was dressed in ordinary clothes, He also knew that some people kept a low profile. This boy had been personally invited by Zhou Qin, so he must have something extraordinary. In addition, he had an extraordinary bearing, so maybe he had some extraordinary background. But when his eyes fell on Su Chan, he was stunned. He was shocked by Su Chan's beauty. From the first time he saw Zhou Qin, he didn't believe that there was a girl in this world who was more beautiful than Zhou Qin. But today he saw that there really was one. Although Su Chan and Zhou Qin were not the same type of girl, there was not a single part of her body that wasn't beautiful. A pair of big eyes revealed a pure and innocent innocence that had not been exposed to the world. Such a look was simply lethal to men. Li Yundong saw that the boy was staring at Su Chan in a daze, and he was slightly displeased. He coughed dryly. When the boy heard the cough, he came to his senses. He turned his head abruptly and stared at Li Yundong. His heart was filled with jealousy. How could this guy have such a wonderful woman by his side, he thought. How did he win Zhou Qin's favor? The more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became. It was as if a ball of jealousy was burning in his chest. But then he suddenly noticed that Su Chan's clothes were not just plain. She was even wearing men's clothing, and there were oil stains on her clothes. Huh? The boy almost laughed. He suddenly measured Li Yundong's weight in his heart. Are you Zhou Qin's classmate? The boy squinted at Li Yundong, sizing him up from head to toe. Li Yundong was a little angry under the boy's gaze. He couldn't help but lower his voice. Yes. If you don't believe me, call and ask. The boy sneered. No need to call and ask. Even if you are, I won't let you in. Li Yundong was angry. Why? The boy pointed at Li Yundong. Look at what you're wearing. Do you think this is an outing? Do you think this is an ordinary banquet? Please, dress a little more solemnly and show some respect to the host here, okay? After that, he pointed at Su Chan again. The woman beside you is dressed so shabbily, yet she dares to attend such a banquet. Even if you're not embarrassed, I'm embarrassed for you. Forget it. You might be able to trick other little girls. If you're poor, don't pick up beautiful women. Do you understand? Get out of here. I don't have time to talk to you. Li Yundong was so angry that he felt like his lungs were about to explode. He almost hit someone, but luckily Su Chan grabbed him and dragged him out of the hotel. The boy saw Li Yundong being dragged away by Su Chan and smiled disdainfully. At this time, a girl walked out of the banquet hall. She was tall and dressed in sexy and fashionable clothes. It was Ding Nan. In order to help Zhou Qin prepare for the banquet, she didn't even go to class in the afternoon. Young master, who are you talking to? Ding Nan glanced at the corridor. At this time, Li Yundong's figure had already disappeared into the elevator. Young master, he flicked the ash off his cigarette and blew a smoke ring at Ding Nan. He said with a frivolous smile, I was talking to two beggars, but don't worry, I sent them away. Ding Nan fanned the smoke with her hand and frowned. How can there be beggars here? Oh, don't stand here in a daze. Come and help me. My waist is about to break. As soon as Li Yundong left the hotel, he flew into a rage. Why did you stop me? I want to beat this snobbish bastard to death. Seeing Li Yundong so angry, Su Chan also felt very uncomfortable. She took Li Yundong's hand and said in a low voice, Master, is it because I'm too ugly and caused you trouble? Seeing Su Chan like this, how could Li Yundong still be angry? He coaxed, Nonsense, you're the most beautiful. It's this bastard who looks down on me. Seeing that he was still angry, Su Chan forced a smile and said, Then you go to the banquet. I won't go in. I'll wait for you here. Seeing that Su Chan was pitiful, Li Yundong's heart softened. Nonsense again. Why don't you go in? Su Chan smiled. Didn't that person just say that I was dressed shabbily? I think if I don't go in it'll be fine. You can go in naturally. Her words made Li Yundong feel that even a Vajra Arhat made of copper and iron would become soft. Li Yundong felt a burst of anger rush to the top of his head. He felt sad and distressed. He hugged Su Chan tightly and said loudly, Nonsense. What kind of lousy banquet is this? We won't attend it. Chapter 67. This pedestrian street was a commercial street that Tianan City had spent a lot of effort to build in the past 2 years. Li Yundong and Su Chan got out of the car as soon as they reached the entrance of the building. As soon as they got out of the car, they were greeted by the bustling commercial atmosphere of the shopping street. The sounds of promotions and music could be heard incessantly. In stark contrast to the ordinary shops, there was a long line of exclusive stores of the world's top brands lining the entrance of the shopping street. Gucci, Prada, CK, LV, Uniqlo, and other international brands lined up in a row. For a moment, Li Yundong was dazzled by the dazzling lineup of brands. Su Chan was even more flabbergasted. She had never been to a place like this before. The natural beauty factor of a female animal was rapidly expanding inside of her. Su Chan's eyes grew brighter and brighter. She tugged at Li Yundong's arm. "Are you going to take me shopping for clothes here?" Only now did Li Yundong believe what Feng Na had said. There is no woman in this world who doesn't love to dress up. At first, Li Yundong was a little hesitant when he saw these dazzling brands. He was afraid that he didn't have enough money. But when he saw Su Chan's excitement and anticipation, the trace of hesitation in his heart was thrown out the window. Women dress up for the man they love. If a man can't even satisfy a woman's request to dress up prettily for his lover, then what's the point of being a man? Li Yundong waved his hand. "I'll buy. Whatever my girl likes, I'll buy it. I'm throwing caution to the wind today." As soon as Li Yundong said that, the people around him turned to look at him. Li Yundong murmured to himself, "It feels good to be a nouveau riche." Li Yundong waved his hand, and Su Chan let out a shriek of excitement. Then she dashed into a nearby Uniqlo store. Li Yundong shook his head with a smile and followed Su Chan into the store. As soon as they entered the store, the receptionist at the front desk bowed politely. "Hello, welcome to the flagship store of Uniqlo." A saleswoman approached them. She wasn't very pretty, but her hair was tied up in a bun, her figure was slim and her clothes were neat and tidy. She was very pleasing to the eye. "Hello, sir in Mississippi. How can I help you?" The saleswoman said politely and softly. It had to be said that Li Yundong was a complete otaku. In the past he had hardly ever shopped. Even if he did, he would only go to the computer market. He didn't have a girlfriend, so he didn't understand the subtleties of shopping, especially when it came to branded stores. Therefore he said something that made him beat his chest and stamp his feet in regret. "I brought my girlfriend here to shop for clothes. Do you have any recommendations?" "You want us to recommend? That's great." He loved this kind of customer the most. The shop assistant was overjoyed. Her eyes lit up as if she had found a sugar daddy. Logically speaking, salespeople like them would usually carefully look at the customers when promoting products, and then use their own judgment to evaluate their purchasing power, and then recommend the corresponding products to them. Otherwise, in this day and age of fierce competition, wouldn't it be suicidal to recommend things that cost hundreds of thousands to ordinary citizens, and things that cost only a few $100s to rich people? The saleswoman looked Li Yundong up and down. Although the boy was dressed in plain clothes, he had an outstanding temperament and a heroic air about him, which made him look like a famous brand. The saleswoman muttered to herself, "Could this be the son of a rich family who likes to keep a low profile?" In this line of work, a pair of sharp eyes was a must. If it was simply judging a person by their appearance and clothes, that would obviously be a failure. In this line of work, one had to judge a customer's purchasing power not only from their appearance, clothes, mannerisms, and manner of speech. Sometimes a better judgment point was the female companion beside the customer. Although Uniqlo also specialized in men's clothing, they were most famous for their women's clothing. Moreover, most of the customers in this store were female, and the male customers were usually accompanying them. If the female companion of a male customer was prettier, sometimes the male customer would be more generous when pulling out his wallet. This was an irrefutable law. Even if there were a few stingy men, when their beautiful female companion acted coquettishly because of the beautiful clothes, they would often clench their teeth, stomp their feet, and pull out their wallets just the same. Therefore, when the shop assistant's eyes fell on Su Chan, her stunned gaze immediately raised Li Yundong's purchasing power to a whole new level. In the eyes of the beautiful shop assistant, if he dared to bring such a beautiful female companion to Uniqlo's flagship store, even if he wasn't the son of a rich family, he must have some ability. If he didn't have some ability, how would he dare to come to Liangshan? And so, the shop assistant came to a conclusion about Li Yundong in her mind. Rich man, big rich man. Big rich man, big rich man. If I don't kill you, who else would I kill? God has been kind to me. I still have a long way to go to reach my sales target for this month, and now I've sent a rich man to my door. The shop assistant smiled like a blooming flower. She walked up to Su Chan and led her to the high-end section. "May I know what kind of clothes you like, young lady?" she asked. Normally, an experienced customer would ask, "What kind of clothes do you have here?" But Su Chan didn't understand the slightest bit. She thought that every single piece of clothing in the store was just like that, and she was dazzled. So she said, "Any kind is fine." "I think all the clothes here are very beautiful," Su Chan said. "Wow, looks like I'm going to take everything. Very good, very good." The smile on the shop assistant's face grew brighter and brighter. She picked up a strawberry-colored dress and said, "This is the flagship summer product of Uniqlo's flagship store. Look, the sleeves are made of silk lace, and the center is hollowed out with small flower petals. It's fresh and breathable, and it sets off this young lady's lovely temperament very well. Look at her collar, hem, and skirt. They're all made of exquisite hand-sewn lace." Although the shop assistant was talking to Su Chan, her eyes kept glancing at Li Yundong from time to time. She was well aware of the law of selling to couples. No matter how much a woman likes it, it's not as much as a man who likes it because the man is the one who pays the bill. Su Chan took the dress from Li Yundong. She liked it very much. She held it against her body and made a cute pose. "What do you think?" she asked with a smile. Li Yundong sat down on a sofa specially prepared for customers and waved his hand. "Go and try it on," he said. The shop assistant pointed elegantly at the dressing room next to her. "You can try it on first and see how it feels and how it looks. If you don't like it, you can change again." Su Chan was overjoyed. She put on the dress and walked into the dressing room with a smile on her face. Before long, she came out wearing a strawberry-colored dress. "Is it beautiful?" Su Chan asked, holding the hem of the dress with both hands. She twirled in front of Li Yundong proudly. Li Yundong felt his eyes light up. It was as if a beautiful, fashionable, pure and cute girl next door was rushing toward him. Her delicate skirt, with pleated lace edges, set off her lovely temperament to the extreme. Coupled with the warm strawberry color, her skin was crystal clear, making her look fair and rosy. It made people want to hug her and take a bite. Li Yundong thought to himself. Li Yundong's eyes lit up. "Beautiful." Li Yundong nodded vigorously and sighed in his heart. "Although this girl is born to be a clothes rack and looks good in everything she wears, even in my clothes, if she were to put on such branded women's clothes, she would look even better." Li Yundong thought to himself. As the saying goes, Buddha needs gold and people need clothes. The salesperson on the side had seen many customers try on clothes and had often praised them. But sometimes it was out of commercial courtesy and was often insincere. But at this time, her praise was sincere from the bottom of her heart. "It's really beautiful. I've worked here for 3 years and I've never seen a girl who can perform this set of clothes so perfectly. If you were a model, you'd be an international top model." When Su Chan was done trying on the clothes, Li Yundong was just about to get up to pay the bill when she caught sight of a pure white miniskirt on the side. Her eyes lit up. "Can I try this on?" "Of course," the shop assistant said with a smile. Li Yundong had just lifted his butt, but he sat back down. After watching Su Chan enter the dressing room, the shop assistant said to Li Yundong, "What about this dress?" Li Yundong liked the girl next door look that Su Chan looked like in this dress. "Wrap it up," he said without thinking. The shop assistant was delighted. She knew that once a man decided to buy the first dress, the second one wouldn't be far away. After Su Chan changed into the second dress, the shop assistant took the strawberry-colored dress from Su Chan's hands, folded it and put it on the counter. Su Chan was wearing a white, slanted shoulder dress. The white satin base made Su Chan look fashionable and elegant, especially her exposed shoulders, which added a touch of sexiness and charm to her. A vixen was a vixen after all. She knew how to seduce men. She didn't need anyone to teach her how to bring out the characteristics and style of this dress. Su Chan put one hand on her hip, raised her shoulder and put the other hand on her bare shoulder. She winked at Li Yundong. Li Yundong felt a shiver run down his spine. His heart was pounding and his mouth was dry. He suppressed his impulse and thought, "What a charming little vixen." The shop assistant was also stunned. She suddenly felt embarrassed to stay any longer. This girl was a vixen in the world of mortals. She was here to seduce men. Compared to her, the methods he used to deal with men in the past were simply at the level of a kindergarten class. He was only at the level of a doctoral supervisor. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Su Chan asked. She spun in a circle in front of Li Yundong and struck a model pose. The skirt was not long to begin with, but it rose and fell slightly, revealing the fair roots of her thighs. Li Yundong wanted to rip the skirt apart and see the limitless beauty underneath. Li Yundong was dumbfounded. All he could do was nod. "Beautiful. Beautiful." The shop assistant struck while the iron was hot. "What about this one?" she asked. "Pack it all up," Li Yundong said without hesitation. The shop assistant beamed with joy. Li Yundong lifted his butt again. "These two should be enough, right?" he thought. But Su Chan saw that he was about to leave, so she threw herself into his arms and grabbed his arm. "I'll look at it a little longer," she said coquettishly. If you don't want to buy it, then I'll just look. Li Yundong thought. He was just going to look, not buy, anyway. Okay, I'll look. But was there a cat in this world that wouldn't eat a fish? No. So, in this world, there was no beautiful woman who would only look and not buy. Chapter 68. As Su Chan changed from one set of clothes to another, Li Yundong could feel himself starting to feel conflicted. No matter which set of clothes Su Chan wore, she carried the style and characteristics of the set of clothes incisively and vividly. It was 100% perfect. When she wore cute clothes, Su Chan was so cute that Li Yundong wanted to rub her in his arms and dote on her. When she wore office clothes, she also exuded a sense of shrewdness and competence. Especially when the little girl wore sexy dresses that exposed her navel or shoulders, Li Yundong felt that he was simply undergoing a test and torture of desire. Li Yundong liked every set of clothes that Su Chan changed into. Women love to dress up and look beautiful, but what man didn't like his woman to be beautiful every day? Plus, some of the customers in the store who were also shopping for clothes turned to look at Su Chan, praising her. Naturally, Li Yundong took a look at one set of clothes and said, okay. Buy. When he came back to his senses, he found that there were already dozens of shopping bags on the counter. Li Yundong was secretly shocked. He took a peek at the clothes on the shelves when the shopping guide was not paying attention. He was horrified to find that each of these clothes cost hundreds of yuan. Holy shit. Li Yundong counted on his fingers. It cost thousands of yuan. Li Yundong's heart trembled. But when he saw Su Chan smiling like a flower, he thought of those snobs who had looked down on him. He suddenly thought, what's the big deal? Can't you afford it? When Su Chan changed into another set of clothes, it suddenly occurred to Li Yundong that most of the clothes she had seen just now were for everyday wear. If I attend Zhou Qin's birthday party, I need to get a beautiful set of clothes to impress these bastards. Li Yundong asked the shopping guide, do you have any dresses for grand occasions? Can you introduce them to me? Hearing this, the shopping guide's heart skipped a beat. As a staff member in the clothing industry, of course, she knew that the real windfall of clothing was this kind of dress. She suppressed her surprise and asked, excuse me, what kind of grand occasion is it for? The kind of very important birthday party, Li Yundong said. He thought about it and was afraid that the clothes introduced by the shopping guide weren't shocking enough, so he added, a large-scale birthday party. Of course, the saleswoman understood what Li Yundong meant. She smiled so widely that her eyes nearly disappeared. She led Su Chan to another section and pointed at a model's purple dress. What do you think of this one? Su Chan nodded. What do you think? Li Yundong took a closer look and was immediately shocked. This was an extremely seductive, deep purple off-the-shoulder silk dress. Below the skirt, there were layers upon layers of handmade trimmings that were like layers upon layers of clouds, giving off a strong sense of wealth. Li Yundong couldn't imagine what a little girl like Su Chan would look like in that elegant dress. He touched the dress with his hand and felt it smooth and cool. Then he looked at the price tag and was shocked. 13,000 renminbi. Hiss. Li Yundong sucked in a breath of cold air. The price of this set of clothes had obviously exceeded his expectations. The saleswoman immediately smiled and said, this purple dress is currently the flagship dress of our flagship store. You can let her try it first. It's okay if she doesn't want to buy it. Li Yundong was stunned for a moment. He glanced at Su Chan and made up his mind. Okay, let her try it first, he said. Su Chan was a little stunned when she saw the dress, but when she looked at the price tag, she was also shocked. She didn't dare to think about it anymore until Li Yundong really let her try it on. She couldn't believe her ears and said with surprise and joy, really? Can I really try it on? Seeing the overjoyed look on her face, Li Yundong immediately smiled and said, go ahead. He sighed in his heart. I'm risking my life to accompany this girl today. Su Chan was overjoyed. She took the dress from the saleswoman and went into the fitting room. Li Yundong found that his mouth was a little dry from waiting, so he grabbed her and said, you try it on here. I'll go out and buy you some drinks. At this time, there were other female customers in the store who were also trying on clothes. They glanced at Su Chan with envy and jealousy, then said to her male companion in a coquettish tone, look, he buys everything his girlfriend wants. He even knows to buy his girlfriend a drink because he's afraid she'll be thirsty. You're not even willing to buy me a dress. The male companion had no choice but to say, okay. What do you want to buy? I'll buy it. As Li Yundong walked out of the door, he thought back to what the woman had said just now and felt a burst of joy in his heart. So it turns out that vanity is not a bad thing. The little girl has beautiful clothes and I also have a lot of face. At the entrance of the business street, almost all of the shops were brand stores. In addition to clothes, bags and shoes, there were international famous brand stores such as Psychic, Chow Tai Fook and Swarovski. Li Yundong wanted to buy a drink, but he walked a long way. When he walked to a cocoa milk tea shop, he found that there was a long line. Li Yundong had never liked carbonated drinks. He only liked milk tea, so he didn't want to compromise, so he had to wait in line. When he finally bought 2 cups of pudding milk tea and walked back, he found that he had been out for more than 40 minutes. When he returned to the store, the customers who had been looking at clothes had basically all left. The receptionist smiled at him politely, and Li Yundong smiled back, then went straight to the dressing room where Su Chan had changed clothes. He came to the dressing room and said, "Hey, the drinks are here." But no one answered. Li Yundong was a little surprised to find that there was a rustling sound coming from the dressing room, but the door was unlocked. Li Yundong's heart suddenly moved, and evil thoughts rose in his mind. The little girl is changing clothes? She won't be angry if I take a peek, will she? Li Yundong's mind was in turmoil. I'm already so close to this little girl, so it's okay to take a peek. He made up his mind, and with an evil smile on his face, he yanked open the dressing room door with the hand holding the cup and shouted, "Surprise! Surprise!" But as soon as Li Yundong opened the door, he was shocked. There was a girl about 1.6 meters tall in the dressing room. She was bare-chested, holding a piece of clothing in her hand, and staring at Li Yundong blankly. The girl had delicate features and a sweet face. She didn't look very old and there was a little baby fat on her cheeks, but her breasts were very big. She was a typical asterisk 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 asterisk. Why isn't it Su Chan? Li Yundong was dumbfounded. His eyes were fixed on the 2 bright red dots on the girl's upper body. He was nervous, and his hand that was holding the cup of milk tea unconsciously tightened. Suddenly there was a splat and the milk tea sprayed out of the cup, spraying right on the girl's face and chest. This scene is too evil. There was a buzzing sound in Li Yundong's head. He suddenly remembered the films he had seen in the expo group before. The scenes played by the Japanese stars Tsang something or other, Ozawa something or other, and Ji something or other. No matter if they were filmed or not, cavalry or infantry, they suddenly flashed through Li Yundong's mind like a tide. Li Yundong had never experienced such a thing before. His mind was blank and he froze on the spot. The girl in the dressing room obviously had never experienced such a thing before. She was also stunned on the spot, even forgetting to cover up. The 2 of them stared at each other for a while, and Li Yundong suddenly came to his senses. He said in a panic, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it." After that, he reached out to wipe the drink off the girl's face and chest with his sleeve. But as soon as he reached out, the girl suddenly let out a scream of more than 200 decibels. Ah! Li Yundong was so scared that his hand immediately trembled and he withdrew it. He held the teacup with both hands and covered his ears, grimacing in pain. He looked ridiculous. After the girl screamed, she slammed the door of the locker room shut. After a while, she opened it again and rushed out in a threatening manner. Damn pervert! The girl was filled with righteous indignation and kept pressing toward Li Yundong. Bullshit. My girl is 100 times more beautiful than you. The girl laughed loudly. Absolutely not. Say it out loud if you dare. ===. Chapter 69. Li Yundong and the girl turned their heads and saw the saleswoman from before walk in. Behind her was a girl in a long purple dress. It was Su Chan. Su Chan's smooth, fair shoulders were exposed, and a large part of her snow-white chest was also exposed. The girl's full, soft breasts revealed a sexy curve, and the shape of her breasts was full and perfect. A sparkling diamond necklace hung from the girl's snow-white chest between her breasts, making it look like a precious jewel. There was a hand-sewn waistline at the waist of the long dress, so the girl's slender waist was seductively slim. The satin clung to her soft waist, and when it reached her crotch, it was shockingly protruding, outlining the shape of a gourd. Li Yundong's eyes lingered on Su Chan's amazing curves for a long time, and he couldn't help but move down. The purple skirt under her feet piled up like a mountain range, making her look like a fairy stepping on colorful clouds. The purple dress was sexy and charming, dignified and elegant, and all kinds of temperament were perfectly displayed by Su Chan. For a moment the exclusive store was silent. Whether it was the receptionist who had been watching the fun, Li Yundong who had been annoyed, or the girl who had been noisy and angry, all of them were staring at Su Chan, stunned by her beauty. Li Yundong noticed that in addition to the purple dress, Su Chan's hair had also been dried, combed and cut. Su Chan's long jet-black hair was tied up in a high bun, which made it look like a dark cloud. The elegant hairstyle perfectly matched the dignified elegance of the gown, and the pair of black peep-toe high heels she was wearing set off her slim figure and sexy beauty. Li Yundong was so stunned that he even forgot to show off to the girl who had quarreled with him. He stammered, "You." The saleswoman hurried over and said apologetically, "I'm sorry. We waited for you for a long time, and when you didn't show up, we took the initiative to take this young lady to try on a pair of high heels in the shop next door. While she was trying on the heels, the hair salon next door insisted on doing a free hairstyle for this young lady. All she had to do was help them take a promotional photo. This lady didn't object, so only then did Li Yundong realize that Su Chan's beauty and temperament had caused quite a stir in the area. The hair salon was using her as a living advertisement. "What about these?" Li Yundong asked, pointing at Su Chan's high heels. The saleswoman glanced at Su Chan enviously and said, "The owner of the shoe store wanted this young lady to be the spokesperson of their shoe store, so he gave her a pair of shoes." Li Yundong asked in surprise, "You promised them?" Su Chan said with a smile, "No." Li Yundong was even more surprised. "What about for free?" The shop assistant next to her explained, "It's not completely free. Yes, Su Chan can't be like a fairy and I can't be like a beggar, can I?" He thought for a moment and nodded. "Do you have men's clothes here?" At this time, the shopping guide looked at Li Yundong as if he was a moving gold ingot. She said with a smile, "The east side of this store is the men's section. Do you need me to choose for you?" Li Yundong rarely bought clothes, so he was happy to save himself some trouble, so he nodded. After a while, the shopping guide picked out a black suit and handed it to Li Yundong. Li Yundong took it and went into the dressing room to change. As soon as he walked out, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. Li Yundong was full of masculinity and heroic spirit. After changing into this neat suit, he suddenly looked mature and steady. Standing next to Su Chan, he was really a talented man and a beautiful woman, and they brought out the best in each other. Even Xin Hui, who was angry to the side, was stunned. She couldn't help but think to herself, "This guy is quite handsome. No, even if this guy is wearing a suit, he is still a beast." Li Yundong carefully looked at himself in the mirror. Beside him, Su Chan smiled like a flower. He smiled and said, Well, a perfect match. This girl is very suitable for me." Su Chan smiled proudly. "Of course." After saying that, the two of them looked at each other and laughed. The shopping guide and the receptionist couldn't help but smile and look at Su Chan enviously. Li Yundong said to the shopping guide, "Well, how much is it? Can I pay by card?" After that, he took out a bank card from his pocket and muttered to himself, "This is a big loss. How much money? At least more than 20,000, right?" The receptionist quickly calculated and said with a smile, "Hello, your total bill is 98,300. Li Yundong's hand trembled, and the bank card almost fell to the ground. How much?" The receptionist continued. "The total is 98,300. After giving you a discount, the total is 70,000. Li Yundong took a deep breath. "Good heavens, I have worked hard to save money for several years, and now I have to buy it back to before liberation. I am going to be in deficit and bankrupt. Are you kidding me?" Li Yundong took a deep breath. "So much." Shen Hui, who was standing to one side, finally seized an opportunity to mock Li Yundong. She sneered and said, "Nonsense, that necklace alone costs more than 40,000. As soon as Li Yundong heard this, he subconsciously wanted to refuse the necklace, but Shen Hui sneered and said, "Don't come to this kind of place if you don't have money. People like you can only go in and out of those street stalls." After all, Li Yundong was young, irritable and impulsive. He suddenly became angry and his face turned red. "Who said I can't afford it?" After that, he threw the card on the front desk and said, "Card?" Su Chan, who was standing to one side, pulled Li Yundong's hand and whispered, I don't want this necklace. I really don't want it. We don't have money to buy it like this, do we?" Although Su Chan's words were reasonable, Li Yundong saw that one of her hands was touching the necklace on her neck reluctantly. He smiled and said, "You bought a horse. Don't you think you can't buy a saddle? It's not like you can't afford it." Li Yundong's heart was bleeding. "Diamonds are forever, and a single one is enough to make me go bankrupt. Fortunately, I can overdraft this card, or I will be in big trouble today. Su Chan bit her lip and shook her head. No, if we don't have money we will be living on the streets. The unhappiness in Li Yundong's heart suddenly disappeared. He laughed and reached out to pat the little girl's head, only to see that the little girl's black hair was falling sideways. If he touched it, her hair would definitely be disheveled. He couldn't help but withdraw his hand, wave it and say heroically, "It's okay. As a man, I'm willing to do everything for you. Ahem, I'm willing to break up your family." Li Yundong almost didn't say something inappropriate for children, but the female staff in the store were all adults. How could they not understand him? They all giggled. After Li Yundong swiped his card, he and Su Chan swaggered out of the Uniqlo store like generals who had just returned to the court after a victory. Their bags were both big and small. == Chapter 70. As a college student, Li Yundong didn't know how hard it was to make money. He didn't take the 70,000 yuan seriously. When he heard someone praise Su Chan like that, he was so happy that every pore of his was smiling. He was 100 times happier than when someone praised him. Don't talk nonsense. Let's go to Hongqing New District. Li Yundong waved his hand proudly. After the two of them left in a taxi, the shopping guide at the door withdrew her gaze and sighed faintly. Alas, if I had such a rich and handsome man, it would be worth it even if I died. The receptionist smiled ambiguously and said, "A man who would die for you?" The shopping guide laughed and said, "Go on. Nowadays, it's easy to find a man who is willing to die for you, isn't it? Nowadays men are all perverts. As long as you are beautiful, you just need to crook your finger and they will come to you like a dog. It's rare to find a man who is willing to break up his family for you." The receptionist laughed and said, "If this man broke up his family for you, would you still be with him?" The shopping guide raised her eyebrows and said without hesitation, "Of course, why not? Do I look like such a heartless person? I believe that he will make a comeback." The receptionist said, "Are you willing to eat steamed buns, pickled vegetables, drink cold water, live in a rented house without air conditioning, live in a smoky neighborhood, squeeze on a stinky bus every day, and have endless housework waiting for you when you go home?" The shopping guide had goosebumps all over her body. "Hey, is it that horrible?" The receptionist asked. "If it is so horrible, will you be with him?" The shopping guide was silent. Her raised eyebrows gradually fell down and finally showed a sigh. The two women looked at each other and were about to sigh about how difficult it was to find a good man these days. Suddenly they heard Shen Hui, who had been in a daze, stomp her feet and say bitterly, "What's so good about this kind of man? Sooner or later I will expose his animal face." After that she rushed out angrily. Li Yundong had wanted to take Su Chan directly to the Xingyuan Hotel, but when he looked at the big and small bags in her hands, he felt that it was really inappropriate. Otherwise, what would it look like if the two of them were dressed in dazzling clothes and carried big and small bags like migrant workers? When they got home, they threw the trophies in their hands on the sofa and immediately rushed to the Xingyuan Hotel without stopping. The driver in the front seat kept sneaking glances at Su Chan through the rearview mirror, just like the previous driver. Li Yundong was starting to get impatient. He rapped on the seat in front of him. "Hey, watch the road. What if there's a car accident?" The driver reluctantly withdrew his gaze. "Yundong, I'm starving to death," Su Chan said, pulling on his arm. "Yundong?" Li Yundong looked at the time. It was almost 8 o'clock. They were already late. He and Su Chan had been playing outside for nearly 3 hours. Even an Iron Man would be hungry. He smiled at Su Chan. "Eat as much as you want when we get to the banquet later. Eat as much as you want." Su Chan was instantly overjoyed. She beamed with joy. "Really? Won't you say that I eat too much?" Li Yundong laughed and said, "I didn't cook the food and I'm not paying for it. You can eat as much as you want and as much as you can." Su Chan's eyes lit up and she almost drooled. The two of them finally arrived at the Xingyuan Hotel. When they got out of the car, the waiter who opened the door for them stared at Su Chan, which made her hair stand on end. She took Li Yundong's hand and said timidly, "What if we get kicked out again?" Li Yundong looked up and laughed. "I'd like to see who's going to kick me out." After that he pulled Su Chan inside. As soon as they reached the lobby, a foreigner who was dragging his suitcase saw Su Chan. His eyes widened so much that they almost popped out of their sockets. As he walked, he turned his head to look at Su Chan and accidentally bumped into the glass of the door. Immediately, he covered his nose and squatted down. Li Yundong was very happy. "Serves you right for looking at me. Before he could finish speaking, he saw several people around him bump into each other, and people were thrown off their feet. Li Yundong looked around like a villain who had achieved success. He reached out his hand and motioned for Su Chan to hold his arm. "See," he whispered. "They're all looking at you." Su Chan snickered. "I'm so nervous," she said with both excitement and timidity. Li Yundong chuckled. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. You won't be nervous when you see food later." As soon as Su Chan heard that she would be able to eat in a while, her stomach suddenly rumbled like thunder. She pulled Li Yundong's arm hard. Let's go. I'm starving." Li Yundong laughed and scolded, "You really get excited when it comes to food. Are you a pig?" The two of them got into the elevator under the shocked gazes of the people around them. As soon as the elevator door closed, there was a whisper in the lobby. "Which family's son and daughter are they?" "I don't know. I've never seen them before. Why do they look a little familiar? If you ask me, look at their temperament and style, they look a little like the son and daughter of the Shen family." Well, it's possible, it's very possible. Only the Shen family can produce such handsome talents. Just as Li Yundong and Su Chan were taking the elevator upstairs, Ding Nan was arguing with a boy in the corner of the banquet hall. "Young master, I don't mean to scold you, but how could you drive away the guests invited by Zhou Qin?" The boy called young master, he was the one who had used harsh words to anger Li Yundong at the door. He said disapprovingly, "Who are you talking about? Why can't I understand what you're saying?" Ding Nan said angrily, "The two beggars you said you drove away before. I asked the waiter on this floor. They are the friends invited by Zhou Qin." Young master, he curled his lips and said, "Zhou Qin's taste is getting more and more vulgar. How could she hang out with such people? She even invited beggars to the banquet. Isn't she afraid of losing face for the Zhou family?" If it had been in the past, Ding Nan would have agreed with young master He's words very much. But recently, Li Yundong seemed to have changed into a different person. In the past, Li Yundong was dim and would immediately disappear if he was thrown into the crowd. But now Li Yundong was dazzling. No matter where he was, he could become the focus of everyone. How could she still judge him by his previous standards? "You." Ding Nan stomped her feet. Just as she was about to speak, Zhou Qin walked over with a smile on her face. "What are you talking about here?" Ding Nan glared at young master He with hatred. "Ask him yourself." Zhou Qin looked at young master He with a smile and did not speak. There was a frightening power in her quiet eyes and smile. Young master He felt uneasy under Zhou Qin's gaze. He subconsciously avoided Zhou Qin's gaze and said with a smile, Qin, you're so beautiful today." Zhou Qin was wearing a red cheongsam today. Her two white and long thighs were faintly discernible at the opening of the cheongsam, which was extremely alluring. She held a transparent crystal cup and took a sip as if she hadn't heard young master He's praise. Then she looked at Ding Nan and said, "You tell me." While Zhou Qin and young master He were talking, from time to time, an elegant gentleman would come up to toast her and praise her beauty and temperament. Zhou Qin dealt with everyone politely and appropriately. Although she seemed to be doing it with ease, her eyes seemed to be looking for something, and her eyes looked a little unfocused. Ding Nan snorted coldly. "Didn't you ask me why Li Yundong hasn't come yet?" As soon as she heard Li Yundong's name, Zhou Qin immediately became much more focused. Her unfocused eyes focused. What? Ding Nan glanced at young master He and said coldly, "Are you sure it's appropriate for me to say it?" Young master He snorted coldly and said, "Humph, Zhou Qin, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you should at least make some friends. How dare he come to such a place dressed like a farmer?" Zhou Qin's eyes gradually turned cold. "Did you drive him away?" Young master He snorted coldly and said, "I didn't drive him away. I just told a poor boy like him that this is not a place for people like him to come and go." Zhou Qin's face was as dark as water, and there was no joy or anger on her face. She was as shrewd as a middle-aged man in his 40s, not like a 19-year-old girl at all. She just stared at young master He and did not say a word for a long time. When they looked, they saw a waiter staring in the direction of the door with his mouth agape. The tray in his hand tilted bit by bit unknowingly, and the glass on it also slid down bit by bit unknowingly. There was another series of sound of wine glasses shattering. This sound was extremely ear-piercing in the banquet, but no one paid any more attention to the sound of these wine glasses shattering. Their eyes were all staring blankly at the door. For a moment, the banquet hall was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Well, I'll explain how to throw flowers to my friends who are reading on their phones. First, please search for novel website on Baidu, then click on the link and then register on this website. Finally, search for the book Raising a Vixen at Home on this website, and then you can send flowers. Of course, at the beginning there will be very few flowers, but it will slowly increase. I hope that everyone will support Tang Tang. Thank you very much. Chapter 71. The men were so shocked that their eyes widened. Even the most gentlemanly of men couldn't help but lose their composure. The waiter, who was pouring wine, spilled it all over the man in front of him, but the man didn't seem to notice it at all. His eyes were fixed on Su-chan just like the waiter. It was as if he wanted to swallow this girl whole. The women in the room were staring at Li Yundong with glowing eyes. It's rare to see such a handsome and heroic man. I wonder which family scion he comes from. Sigh, how good would it be if I was his female companion? Su-chan felt a little timid in the face of so many pairs of eyes. She subconsciously tried to hide behind Li Yundong. Li Yundong pinched her forearm and whispered, "Don't be afraid. Their eyes are so scary." Su-chan whispered back, "It's like they're going to eat me alive." Li Yundong smiled. "Don't worry. I'm here." Su-chan relaxed when she heard Li Yundong's warm and forceful words. She looked at him with a smile. At that moment, Su-chan seemed to have forgotten her true identity and the fact that she was a cultivator. It was as if she really was just a delicate, powerless and beautiful young lady from a noble family. Zhou Qin and Ding Nan were also staring at Su-chan. Zhou Qin's words echoed in her mind, and she subconsciously said in a low voice, "I feel sorry for you when I see you, let alone an old servant like me." When Ding Nan heard that, she stared at Su-chan and whispered, "Yeah." During the northern and southern dynasties, there was an official who married a woman with the surname Li as his mistress. As a result, when the first wife of a princess heard about it, her jealousy soared to the heavens. She brought a knife and wanted to destroy the appearance of the mistress. But when the mistress walked up to the mistress, she saw the mistress combing her hair in front of a mirror. She was beautiful and her words were sad. The jealous mistress couldn't help but feel her heart soften. She dropped the knife in her hand, hugged the mistress and said something that had been passed down through the ages, "I feel sorry for you when I see you, let alone an old servant like me." Even the jealous mistress felt sorry for the mistress, let alone those stinky men. How beautiful would it be? In the eyes of the crowd, this girl still looked like a young girl. Her eyes still had a natural tenderness and innocence. If she were to grow up a few more years, what kind of demon would she become? Zhou Qin was supposed to be the dazzling princess of this party, but Su-chan's appearance suddenly overshadowed her. Young Master He, who had humiliated Li Yundong before, also widened his eyes at this time. He couldn't believe his eyes. Zhou Qin glanced at him and said lightly, "Young Master He, if I were you, even if no one drives me away, I would have no face to stay here. Don't tell me you're waiting to be humiliated later?" Young Master He flew into a rage out of humiliation. His face and neck turned red. Who does he think he is? How dare he humiliate me? He thought that because he was the son of an official, ordinary people would be respectful to him and speak to him humbly. Who would dare to take the initiative to provoke him? But he had never expected that Li Yundong would never hold a grudge, because if he had a grudge he would take revenge on the spot. Li Yundong's gaze swept the scene and saw Zhou Qin and young Master He together. He immediately pulled Su-chan over and really came over to slap them in the face. Young Master He watched Li Yundong and Su-chan walk over. His expression was a little unnatural, as if he was sitting on pins and needles. He wanted to leave, but what he had said before made him embarrassed. Li Yundong nodded at Zhou Qin with a smile, then turned to young Master He and said, "What else do you want to say this time?" Young Master He's face turned red and he was speechless. Li Yundong looked at young Master He up and down, then pulled Su-chan to his side and said, "The reason why my Su-chan doesn't dress up is because I'm afraid that some people will judge people by their appearance, and those who judge people by their clothes will feel inferior. It's not that I can't, it's that I don't want to. Do you understand? Do you need me to translate it more clearly?" When men slapped each other in the face, the fiercest slap was not the one with the most force, but the one in front of the most beautiful girl. Even if it was a light slap, it was definitely a great humiliation. Li Yundong slapped young Master He hard in the face, making his face turn purple like a pig's liver. Li Yundong choked young Master He until he couldn't speak. He only felt that he had vented his anger. He turned to Zhou Qin and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, I'm not referring to you. However, Su-chan and I came here in high spirits today, but we didn't expect to encounter such a thing. It's really disappointing. The reason why I brought Su-chan back is to show some people who look down on people, so that they won't be able to change their ways in the future. Young master, he was furious. He pointed at Li Yundong and said, Yug. Zhou Qin interrupted young master he coldly, young master he, if people humiliate others they will humiliate themselves. You asked for it. What did I tell you before? Young master he was furious. He glared at Li Yundong fiercely and viciously. Li Yundong had the Jindan's primordial qi in his body, and his essence, qi and blood were incredibly vigorous. In addition, he was a young man, so his ambition was naturally extremely high. How could he take such a person seriously? He immediately glared back at him. Li Yundong's glare was so sharp that even a person who had practiced martial arts for a long time would not be able to withstand it. How could a playboy like young master he stand it? Young master he immediately avoided his gaze and took a step back in shock. But he quickly reacted. I just asked around, Feng Na said in a low voice. I heard that she is the daughter of a deputy governor. Li Yundong was secretly surprised. If she has such a strong background, why did she come to our university to study? Feng Na shrugged. Who knows? Maybe the girl of the princess party has her own plans? Li Yundong suddenly thought of something. So, didn't I just defend the crown prince's party? Feng Na laughed and said gloatingly, Are you afraid now? Li Yundong also laughed but didn't say anything. Su-chan, who was next to him, tugged at Li Yundong's sleeve and looked at him pitifully. Sir, she said, your girl is so hungry that her chest is sticking to your back. Only then did Li Yundong remember that he and Su-chan hadn't had dinner yet. He smacked his head. I forgot. He smiled at Feng Na and said, Su-chan and I are going to have dinner first. I'll talk to you later. Feng Na smiled. You haven't eaten yet? Don't tell me you guys deliberately didn't eat so that you could have a big meal now? Li Yundong chuckled and gave her a thumbs up. You know me so well. Li Yundong and Su-chan came to the main table. It was a rectangular table that was more than 10 meters long. The table was filled with all kinds of delicious food, including cakes, desserts, chicken, duck, fish, stir-fried dishes, and delicious soup. Su-chan's eyes were blurred by the sight, and she almost drooled on the table. She reached out for a roast chicken, but Li Yundong quickly hit her with his hand. Idiot, he said. Take a plate first. There are tongs on the side. Use them to put the food you want on the plate. Su-chan looked at the dazzling array of food on the table. She felt like she had been cheated. Didn't you say that I could eat as much as I wanted? She asked in disappointment. Li Yundong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Idiot. Everything you put on the plate is yours. You can eat as much as you want. Su-chan's eyes lit up. Really? She asked. Li Yundong had already picked up a chicken leg and put it on the plate. He was already eating it. As he ate, he said in a muffled voice, It's fake. I lied to you. These things are poisonous. Just watch me eat. Su-chan saw that Li Yundong's mouth was covered in grease. She didn't believe him. She stomped her feet in anger and shouted, You big liar. How infuriating. How dare you steal it? .. Chapter 72. Su-chan reached out and grabbed a whole roast chicken. She took a bite, only to see Li Yundong stomping his feet beside her. Are you a pig? Didn't I tell you to put it on a plate? He said angrily. Are you a pig? Didn't I tell you to put it on a plate? Look around. There are so many people looking at you. Don't you feel embarrassed? Su-chan was chewing on the roast chicken's belly. She rolled her eyes and looked around. Sure enough, many people were staring at her in shock. Su-chan blushed, then put the roast chicken back on the table, her face red with embarrassment. Li Yundong almost fainted. He tried to swallow the food in his mouth and patted his chest. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he said, Come on, you've already taken a bite. How can others eat it? Su-chan didn't know whether to eat or not. Just when she was at a loss as to what to do, she saw Li Yundong pick up a pair of tongs and place the roast chicken she had just taken a bite of on the plate with a serious look on his face. It's okay, he said. I won't despise you, Su-chan said. At first, Su-chan really thought that Li Yundong was helping her. She looked at him with eyes full of gratitude, like a believer looking at a messiah. But after a while, she found that Li Yundong was secretly laughing while eating. She gradually realized that something was wrong, but she couldn't figure out what it was. When Li Yundong quickly finished a chicken leg and threw the bone on the side of the plate, Su Chan came to her senses. She rushed over with her teeth bared in claws. "You're so annoying. You stole my food." Li Yundong laughed heartily as he ate. His back was to Su Chan, and he used his buttocks to block her pouncing body. While protecting his food, he was also gobbling up the food at a faster rate. "Who told you to steal my food before?" The young man and the young woman were talking and laughing as if there was no one else present at the banquet. The people around them were stunned. These people were all upper-class people. Just now they were wondering where this golden couple came from. Who would have thought that they were a prince and a princess? Who would have thought that they were playing like naughty children? Feng Na covered her eyes with her hands and sighed at Cheng Cheng. "Don't tell anyone that I know them," she said. Cheng Cheng looked at them enviously and said, "This is true temperament. It's so much cuter than those people who pretend all the time. The more I think about it, the happier I am to have such a boyfriend." Feng Na pointed at her and said with a smile, "Are you crazy about him? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder." Cheng Cheng looked at Feng Na strangely and asked, "Nana, if you have a boyfriend like this, even if you can't marry him and have children in the future, when you are no longer beautiful and lonely, won't your heart palpitate and your lips curl into a knowing smile when you recall the happy moments with him, even if these happy moments are superficial, laughable, and childish?" Feng Na looked at Cheng Cheng strangely and asked, "Nana, if you have a boyfriend like this, even if you can't marry him and have children in the future, when you are lonely and beautiful, when you think back to these happy moments with him, even if these happy moments are superficial, ridiculous, and childish, won't your heart palpitate and your lips curve into a knowing smile?" Cheng Cheng turned her head and looked at them enviously. "I don't believe in eternal love in this world," she said. "That's why I think the true meaning of love is that it doesn't matter if it lasts forever or not. I only care about having it once. If you once had the most sincere love, even if it was only for a short time, you will be much happier than others who spend a lifetime with each other." Feng Na was stunned by Cheng Cheng's words. Feng Na smiled bitterly. "There are so many mistresses in this world and they were all raised by your thinking." Cheng Cheng tossed back her hair and said proudly, "I'm not a gold digger. So I can straighten my back and look down on them." Feng Na shook her head and smiled, but there was a thoughtful look in her eyes. She said quietly, "But if one day you lose this sincere love, what will you do when you remember the heart-wrenching pain and sadness?" Cheng Cheng smiled and said, "There are no immortals in this world, and there is no love that never ends. It will end sooner or later, so what if it's sooner or later?" Feng Na smiled and said, "I just found out today that you are a philosopher of love." There was a hint of emotion in Cheng Cheng's smile. "I only sighed when I saw them." As they spoke, their eyes turned to Li Yundong and Su Chan at the same time. Su Chan fought with Li Yundong for the roast duck for a while, but she found that not only was she unable to grab it, but Li Yundong had also taken advantage of her. She was angry and hungry, so she wanted to turn around and grab another roast chicken, but she was sad to find that there was no roast chicken left on the long table. The one just now was the last one. In fact, the role of the roast chicken on this kind of banquet table was more for decoration. There was only one, and even most of the dishes here were just for decoration. Only a few people who were really hungry would take some food to eat. No one was like Li Yundong and Su Chan, who really ate the food on the table as a proper meal. Su Chan saw that the roast chicken was gone. She curled her lips and felt that she had been bullied by Li Yundong. Suddenly, tears welled up in her eyes. Li Yundong laughed so hard that his intestines were about to break. He quickly coaxed, "Silly girl, in addition to roast chicken, there are many more delicious things here. Take your own plate and eat. You can eat as much as you want. I definitely won't fight with you anymore." Su Chan looked at Li Yundong skeptically. She looked like she was going to protect all the food on the table and not let anyone else eat it. "Really?" she asked. Li Yundong stretched out his little finger. "Pinky promise?" Su Chan was confused, but she also stretched out her little finger like Li Yundong. "What pinky promise?" Li Yundong smiled and hooked his little finger with Su Chan's little finger. "Pinky promise. You can't change it for 100 years. After that, Li Yundong smiled and said, "Okay, go and eat." Seeing that Li Yundong was really not competing with her, Su Chan suddenly smiled. She had forgotten that Li Yundong had bullied her before. She giggled and said, "You're so nice. You let me have so much food." Li Yundong watched Su Chan jump to the table with a cheer. He couldn't help but laugh and shake his head. "Why is she like a 5 or 6-year-old child? I bought this dress for nothing. I thought she would grow up a little." He ate a few more mouthfuls of roast chicken and felt that his stomach was no longer hungry. He put down the plate in his hand and wiped his mouth with a napkin on the corner of the table. As soon as he wiped his mouth, Zhou Qin came over and looked at him with a smile. Finished eating? Li Yundong laughed, not feeling embarrassed at all. Yes, I have. I must have made a fool of myself. Sorry for making you laugh. There was a trace of admiration in Zhou Qin's eyes. A man should have a true temperament. A pure heart is the most precious. If you keep a straight face all day long, you're not necessarily a real man. Ever since Li Yundong had confessed his love to Zhou Qin, he had always felt that Zhou Qin was a cold person who was frighteningly shrewd and difficult to get along with. However, Zhou Qin's words made Li Yundong feel a little impressed. He smiled slightly and said, "Are you talking about yourself? Do you know that when you smile, you look 10,000 times better than when you keep a straight face?" Zhou Qin was stunned. Since she was a child, there had been too many people who had praised her beauty. She was tired of hearing it, but at this time she felt that Li Yundong's praise was better than all the previous ones, even though it didn't sound like a compliment. Her eyes swept over Li Yundong's face, and her ears turned slightly red. Really? No matter how shrewd Zhou Qin was, she was still a 19-year-old girl. At this time, her face was blushing, and the way her eyes were moving made Li Yundong suddenly stunned, and his heart thumped. Zhou Qin brushed the ends of her hair behind her ear and pointed to the balcony next to the banquet hall. "Do you mind going there to talk for a while?" Li Yundong nodded. Of course. The two of them walked to the balcony, away from the bustling and noisy hall. Zhou Qin leaned back against the railing, her posture a little lazy, and her expression no longer as cold and distant as before. She smiled at Li Yundong and said, "Of course you said just now, do you mean of course you mind or of course you don't mind?" Li Yundong smiled and said, of course I don't mind. It should be a pleasure for a man to be able to chat with a beautiful woman like you." Zhou Qin tilted her head slightly and studied his eyes carefully, as if trying to discern whether he was telling the truth or not. "You have a girlfriend like Su Chan by your side," she said. "Are you still eating from the bowl and looking at the pot when you have one?" Li Yundong laughed hoarsely. "That's two different things. Do I have to cut off my tongue and dig out my eyes from now on because I have a girlfriend like Su Chan? Besides, I'm just talking to beautiful women. It's not like anything happened between us." Zhou Qin smiled and suddenly fell silent. After a while, she didn't know why, but an impulse welled up in her restless heart. Her ears were so red that they seemed to be dripping blood. She boldly asked, "If you had confessed to me last time and I had agreed, would you still be with Su Chan?" Li Yundong looked at Zhou Qin with a rare serious expression. Can a person step into the same river twice in his life? Zhou Qin's expression became a little unnatural. At this moment, the girl's shrewdness and disguise were shattered by Li Yundong's words. She wanted to protect herself with a smile, but her heart was sour. This kind of sourness made her use all her strength to squeeze out a smile. In the past, this was something she was very good at, but today this trick didn't work. Li Yundong looked at Zhou Qin and smiled. "You are a very beautiful girl. I'm sure you can find someone better than me, but I think you should still smile more, really." With that, Li Yundong was about to leave. Zhou Qin looked at Li Yundong's back and suddenly said, "What if I only want to smile at you more?" The girl, who was usually calm and shrewd, had lost her composure. Li Yundong turned around and looked at Zhou Qin deeply. His eyes were full of pity. "That's not my smile. Where is my smile?" Li Yundong pointed in the direction of the restaurant. Zhou Qin looked in the direction of Li Yundong's hand, and the expression on her face suddenly became very interesting. She wanted to laugh, but she was a little unwilling to. After holding it in for a while, she suddenly turned her face away. Li Yundong was a little surprised when he saw her smile. He also turned his head and muttered in his heart, "What is Zhou Qin smiling at?" As soon as he turned his head, his eyes suddenly widened. He saw Su Chan holding a plate in her hand. The food on the plate was piled up like a mountain, half as high as a person. Every time she took a step, the food on the plate swayed as if it was about to fall down. The surrounding guests all changed their expressions and moved away, lest they get involved. But Su Chan didn't seem to notice it. She just held the plate with both hands and kept looking around as if she was looking for a table. But how could there be a proper dining table at this kind of banquet? Most people just took a small plate, took some dessert and ate it standing up. Su Chan looked for a while and suddenly found a waiter pushing a dining car with all kinds of drinks on the lower level passing by. She was overjoyed and put the plate on the dining car with a bang. Then, she naturally took the dining car from the waiter and said with a smile, "Thank you. I was worried that I couldn't find a place to put it." The waiter had never encountered such a thing before. Dumbfounded, he stood rooted to the ground, not knowing what to do. Zhou Qin, who was on the balcony, watched Li Yundong rush to Su Chan angrily. She smiled at the waiter, pulled the little girl aside and scolded her in a low voice. Su Chan was so scolded by Li Yundong that she couldn't raise her head, but her eyes were rolling. Her eyes didn't leave the dining car not far away, as if she was afraid that someone would snatch her food. Zhou Qin was so amused by Su Chan's funny expression that she finally couldn't help laughing. But after laughing for a while, her laughter suddenly stopped, and her smile slowly became lonely. In her sight, Li Yundong said something to Su Chan. Finally, Su Chan smiled at Li Yundong as if she was asking for credit. Her smile was pure and lovely. Chapter 73. When she got home, she took off the luxurious dress she had worn at the banquet and wore a casual long gown. The hem of the gown hung down to her waist near the base of her legs, only slightly covering her buttocks. Her long white legs were crossed and there was a paint plate on her thigh. The girl was painting an oil painting. A young man and a young girl were chasing a pair of butterflies on the grass. In this painting, the butterflies were in the foreground, and the young man and the young girl were in the background. The painting was nearing the end, and Zhou Qin was applying the paint to the corners. Painting was one of Zhou Qin's many specialties and talents, but compared to other skills, Zhou Qin preferred painting, because only when she was painting could she devote herself to it and forget all the unhappiness around her. But in this world there was no painting that could never be finished, unless the painter did not want to finish it. When Zhou Qin finished the painting with the last stroke, she seemed to have returned to the real world from another world. A huge sense of loss and emptiness suddenly attacked her. She looked at the painting in front of her blankly, and couldn't help but think of the unforgettable scene at the banquet. Why did I say that impulsively at that time? Zhou Qin bit her bright red lips with her snow-white teeth and frowned slightly. Why on earth? Was it because this boy was too outstanding? Or was it because he was too unique? In terms of excellence, Zhou Qin had seen many men who were 100 times better than Li Yundong. At a young age they had created a huge foundation. In terms of uniqueness, Zhou Qin had also seen men who were more maverick than Li Yundong. Not only did they have personality, but they were also extremely talented. But why was she so impulsive? Zhou Qin suddenly felt upset. If she hadn't been so impulsive, she wouldn't have been rejected. If she hadn't been rejected, she wouldn't have felt so humiliated and uncomfortable. Was he taking revenge on me for rejecting him before? Zhou Qin suddenly thought of this question. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. Men were very prideful. But apart from this reason, were there any other reasons? Zhou Qin thought hard, but in addition to these questions that made her entangled, there was another question that was pestering her like a devil. What did she like about this boy? Was it the impulse of the hormones in her body? Or was there another reason? Zhou Qin, who was getting more and more agitated, suddenly stood up and walked into the room from the balcony. As soon as she entered the room, she found a middle-aged man standing in the room and looking at her quietly. "You're back?" Zhou Qin was a little surprised, but she quickly greeted him coldly and calmly. "Finally done?" The middle-aged man nodded. His gaze fell from his daughter to her painting, and a look of admiration appeared on his face. "Not bad." At this time, Zhou Qin had already taken a paper knife and cut off the canvas with a clatter. Then she tore it into several pieces. The middle-aged man was stunned. "Why did you tear it? Wasn't it very good? That butterfly is very lifelike." Zhou Qin said coldly, "No matter how lifelike the butterfly is, it's impossible for it to fly out of this frame." The middle-aged man smiled bitterly and said, "Are you still blaming me? You should know better than me the benefits of a marriage alliance with the He family. You've been smart and sensible since you were young. You should know that you can't hide from such a family. I heard that you made young Master He leave in anger today? Alas, young man, I thought you were very mature. I didn't expect you to do such a childish thing." Zhou Qin raised her eyes and glanced at the middle-aged man not far away. His eyes were so strange that he looked like a passerby. She stopped talking and just threw the torn canvas in her hand piece by piece from the balcony. Almost at the same time, Li Yundong, who had returned home with Su Chan, closed the door and looked at Su Chan with a speechless expression. Su Chan lowered her head and puffed up her cheeks. From time to time she would steal a glance at Li Yundong. "Well, I won't do it again." Su Chan couldn't stand Li Yundong's gaze. She grabbed his hand and said coquettishly, "Who told you to starve me for so long?" Li Yundong looked defeated and said, "There are so many of them on a plate. How did you think of that? I really can't stand you. No one is fighting with you." Su Chan immediately said angrily, "If there is, then fight with me." Li Yundong glared at her and said, "You're still talking back." Su Chan immediately lowered her head and muttered, "That's how it is." Li Yundong couldn't help but laugh. "Now, you're famous and you dress like a princess, but it turns out that the princess is the reincarnation of a hungry ghost." Seeing Li Yundong laugh, Su Chan took the opportunity to climb up the ladder. "I don't want to be a princess, I want to be my master's girl." With such a spoiled girl by his side, Li Yundong couldn't lose his temper. He pointed a finger at the tip of Su Chan's nose and said, "I really don't know what to do with you. Don't do this kind of thing in the future, okay? It's so embarrassing." Su Chan wrinkled her nose and made a face. The pot calling the kettle black. The two of them laughed for a while, then Li Yundong went to take a shower, changed into pajamas and sat in the living room in a daze. The living room and dining room of the new house were connected, and there were two balconies in the room. One balcony was next to the living room, and the other was next to the dining room. So when the windows on both balconies were open, the room was very ventilated. Especially at night, when the night wind blew on both sides of the balcony, it was so comfortable that there was no need to turn on the air conditioner. Su Chan pointed at Li Yundong's chest and said, "Although the middle dantian is the place where qi is stored, there are many places in the human body where qi is stored. One of the most important places is the lower dantian. Most of the qi in your body starts from here and then flows to other meridians, so you have to let these qi return to the dantian before you can stop and talk. This is called finishing what you started." Li Yundong saw that Su Chan was extremely serious, so he also nodded seriously. Although Li Yundong had always been a little skeptical about the matter of qi cultivation, deep in his heart he always associated this kind of thing with feudal superstition. Who asked so many qigong masters to cheat in the past? But since Su Chan was teaching him to practice, Li Yundong also practiced and he slowly experienced a lot of fun from it. Li Yundong said, "I see. I will pay attention in the future. But just now I felt as if my whole body didn't exist. I only saw groups of qi of different colors around me. What's going on? I'm not hallucinating, am I?" As he spoke, Li Yundong's face showed both excitement and some worry. Su Chan explained, "This is the highest realm of qi cultivation. Jinrenjiang Sanfeng once said that practicing martial arts is the same as qi cultivation. They are both the process of transforming essence into qi, qi into spirit, and spirit into nothingness." Li Yundong looked surprised. Zhang Sanfeng said such a thing? What does it mean to transform essence into qi, qi into spirit, and spirit into nothingness? Su Chan said, "Transforming essence into qi is the main task of qi cultivation. It refers to refining the essence qi in your body into essence qi, qi into spirit refers to refining your essence qi into spirit, and spirit into nothingness refers to transforming your spirit into jinqi that can be used for magic." Li Yundong was confused. What essence qi, spirit, and jinqi? Have you played too many online games or read too many novels? Aren't essence qi and spirit the same thing? Su Chan liked to play around, but she didn't have much patience. She was a little crazy in her heart, but she patiently explained, "You used to practice qi cultivation, which is the process of transforming essence into qi. The aura you felt just now was the condition of your 5 viscera and 6 bowels after you reached the highest realm of qi cultivation." Li Yundong was shocked. "What? You saw the conditions of my internal organs? But the qi I saw was colorful and there were all kinds of colors." Su Chan said, "That's right." Zhang Zhongjing put forward the theory of 5 visceral diseases in the synopsis of the Golden Chamber. It was the first time that he pointed out the attribution and color of the 5 viscera of the human body. Among them, the kidney is black, the heart is red, the liver and gallbladder are green, the lungs are white, and the spleen is yellow. Therefore, the colorful masses of qi you see are the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys in your body. Li Yundong was stunned on the spot. He stared blankly at Su Chan. The little girl in front of him was able to recite the scriptures with ease. She was really familiar with these things. She didn't look like the silly girl she had been at the banquet before. Why does her master teach her these things and not teach her anything about daily life? Li Yundong couldn't help but think, is she a disciple of Buddhism or Taoism? Chapter 74. Li Yundong laughed and put his palms together. Amit Ba, this master's words are very kind. Greetings. Su Chan giggled and said, what nonsense are you talking about? How can a monk call himself a monk? Li Yundong chuckled and asked tentatively, aren't you a disciple of Buddhism? Su Chan was stunned and subconsciously thought that although her sect was fated with Buddha, and many of the magic and magical items she learned came from Buddhism, her sect did not belong to Buddhism, nor did it belong to Taoism. Su Chan shook her head and said, who said I was a disciple of Buddhism? Li Yundong looked surprised. Then you are a disciple of Taoism? Amit Ba, fellow Taoist, this humble Taoist greets you. Su Chan laughed and said, idiot. I'm not a Taoist either. Li Yundong asked in confusion, you're not a Buddhist nor are you a Taoist. Are you my Hun family? Su Chan giggled and blushed. She said, Ba, you're so shameless. Who wants to be a bastard? Li Yundong smiled and hugged Su Chan. Then what do you want to be? Su Chan and Li Yundong were getting more and more intimate with each other. This kind of hugging was already very normal. She nestled in Li Yundong's arms, her body as soft as water, as if she had no bones. She said with a smile, Chaner, just be my girl, okay? Li Yundong was overjoyed. He pointed to his cheek and said, come on, kiss me. Boys and girls who were in love were always happy about this kind of thing. Su Chan kissed Li Yundong's cheek. Li Yundong pointed to his lips and said, come on, you can't favor one and discriminate against the other. Su Chan was a little aroused by the huge masculine aura in Li Yundong's body. She said coquettishly, Master, do as I say. When you're done I'll give you benefits. Li Yundong looked at Su Chan's charming appearance and felt his heart beat faster. He let go of his hand and said with a smile, what? Su Chan stood up and asked him to sit cross-legged again. She calmed down a little and said, close your eyes and check the qi of your internal organs again. Li Yundong thought about the benefits Su Chan would give him after this, so he obediently did as she said. However, at the moment his mind was in turmoil. He kept thinking about the scene of him making out with Su Chan, so he couldn't enter the meditative state for a while. When Su Chan saw this, she ran her fingers down Li Yundong's spine from top to bottom. The spine of the human body was very similar to the bones of a fish. After all the fish meat was eaten, the bones of the fish would become a long strip of bone. Beside it were fish bones that were scattered on both sides. The empty space between the two bones would appear as a depression in the human body, just like the valley between two mountains. The earth's core was where the essence of the human body gathered. It was also where the blood energy gathered. This was also where the Lingtai acupoint was located. Su Chan found the Lingtai acupoint, closed her fingers like a chicken's beak and gently pecked it. Su Chan had never had a Taoist partner before. This knowledge and cultivation techniques were all learned from her master, and when she was reading cultivation classics, she clearly remembered that her master had once told her that the Lingtai acupoint was a vital acupoint in the human body, just like the Huagai acupoint in the chest. It was an important acupoint like the pass of a fortress. Many outer disciples of cultivation sects would often use a small wooden hammer to gently hit their back in daily life, hitting the Lingtai acupoint. Li Yundong's mind was full of mosaic images, so naturally he was extremely impetuous. But when Su Chan hit his Lingtai acupoint, his whole body suddenly trembled. It was as if a basin of cold water had been poured directly over his head, and the boiling heat in his lower abdomen and lower body was immediately suppressed. Li Yundong let out a long breath, releasing all the hot qi in his body, and his body and mind calmed down. With this silence, Li Yundong quickly entered the state of inner vision. At this time he had already reached the advanced level of qi training. If someone guided him to carry out inner vision and visualization, it would be a matter of course and there would be no hindrance at all. Su Chan, who was beside him, found that Li Yundong's eyebrows had relaxed, his eyes were slightly closed, and his breathing was slow and long. It was obvious that he was looking inside. She said softly and slowly, you can see the qi of your internal organs. Now, slowly try to guide the qi of your internal organs to the head of your upper dantian. Although Li Yundong had entered the state of meditation, he could hear Su Chan's words clearly. When he tried to mobilize the qi of his internal organs, he found that the 5 groups of qi of different colors were like boulders, not moving at all. Li Yundong couldn't help but frown. Su Chan immediately sensed that he might encounter difficulties, so she said softly, don't deliberately use your mind to mobilize the qi of the 5 internal organs. First, mobilize the yuanyang qi in the lower dantian of your lower abdomen, and then guide your yuanyang qi slowly around the qi of the 5 internal organs. The qi of these internal organs will naturally follow your yuanyang qi. When the 5 qi are aroused, you can mobilize this yuanyang qi to the upper dantian. Li Yundong did as Su Chan said and mobilized a trace of the purest yuanyang qi in his lower abdomen. This yuanyang qi was like a warm gossamer, slowly swimming in his body. When this warm qi went around the 5 groups of qi of different colors in his body, Li Yundong felt that the 5 groups of qi, which had been motionless before, began to tremble slightly. After a while, there were traces of qi of different colors swimming toward Li Yundong's yuanyang qi. Li Yundong felt that these 5 qi were mixed with his yuanyang qi. Wherever he mobilized his yuanyang qi, the qi of the 5 internal organs would swim there. It was like a general directing his soldiers, free and easy. Seeing that Li Yundong's eyebrows were relaxed, Su Chan knew that he had understood the mystery of it. She couldn't help but smile. Although Li Yundong had learned the way of cultivating qi from Su Chan, wasn't Su Chan also verifying what she had learned in the past from Li Yundong? In this process of verification, Su Chan had some new understanding of what she had learned in the past. The way of dual cultivation was not just a sexual technique between a man and a woman. Its meaning was profound and boundless. Su Chan watched as Li Yundong's face turned white, red, black, and green. She knew that this was the result of Li Yundong mobilizing the 5-colored qi in his body to the top of his head. What was the 5 qis collecting in mind? As the name implied, the 5 qis were the heart, liver, spleen, lung, and kidney. It was the qi of the 5 major internal organs of the human body. It was not enough for a cultivator to cultivate their meridians. No matter how strong the qi of a person's meridians was, compared to the qi in the 5 internal organs, it was just external qi. It was like a river compared to the sea. Once a cultivator cultivated his 5 internal organs, not only would he be able to become extremely strong inside, but he would also be able to make the outside of the human body extraordinary. Most importantly, the qi of the human body's meridians could sometimes be used up, and one could not create their own jinqi. However, the 5 internal organs of the human body were the congenital small universe mentioned in cultivation methods. Not only could they create their own qi, but they could also store a large amount of qi. There were 2 meanings of Chaoyuan. One was that the qi of the 5 internal organs of the human body would be innately attracted by the yuanyang qi of the human body. This was a passive meaning. The other was that if a cultivator wanted to cultivate the qi of the 5 internal organs, he had to gather the qi of the 5 internal organs at the top of his head. This was an active meaning. What was the qi of the 5 internal organs of the human body facing? It was the yuanyang. This yuanyang was not only the yuanyang qi of the human body, but also the yuanyang that was the most important part of the human body, the brain, which was also the position of the head of the human body. Su Chan stared at the changing colors on Li Yundong's face with a slightly nervous expression. She knew that if Li Yundong could send this qi back to the 5 internal organs, it would mean that he had completed the task of inner vision, the highest realm of the second heaven of cultivators. Cultivating qi was the most dangerous thing. It was like a child dancing with a hammer. If he made a mistake, he would swing the hammer on his head and smash his head. However, Li Yundong was not only not a child but also a strong man with divine strength. Naturally, he was very familiar with wielding a hammer. Su Chan saw the color of Li Yundong's face change back and forth 9 times, then gradually return to normal. The 5 qi slowly returned to the body along with the yuanyang. Now, try to visualize your qi inside your body. Let's see what kind of shape your qi is in. What kind of shape can you imagine it to be? Su Chan was overjoyed. She knew that Li Yundong had successfully completed the inner vision homework, so he could move on to the next step. Li Yundong was very puzzled by her words. Could the qi in the body become like a transformer? Could it become whatever it wanted? But when he tried to think about it, he was shocked to find that his whole body seemed to be floating in a vast sea of clouds. These vast clouds were thick and piled up, blocking all the light around him like a big steamer. Li Yundong raised his hand to look at his hand, but found that it was a mass of nothingness without hands, feet, head, or body. Li Yundong was shocked and panicked for a moment, sweating profusely. Just as he was panicking, he heard an empty and distant voice coming from the direction of the heavenly court above his head. It was kind, gentle, familiar, and reassuring. Don't be nervous. This is your little universe and also your spiritual world. Try to visualize it and see what you can think of in this world. Visualization was the basic skill for cultivators to begin to cultivate. It was also a lesson that could test a cultivator's talent and comprehension. Visualization was a test of a cultivator's ability to mobilize their aura and thoughts, as well as their comprehension and creativity. The more complicated a person could visualize, the higher their comprehension and talent were. The simpler a person could visualize, the lower their talent was. Li Yundong gradually calmed down and began to try to visualize. Su Chan looked at Li Yundong nervously, not daring to blink. She knew that besides the Zhuji phase, this was the most important threshold for cultivators. The Zhuji phase divided people into mortals and cultivators, while visualization divided those who wanted to pursue cultivation into geniuses, laymen, and fools. Different classifications determined the level of their future cultivation attainments. In this subject, the elixir of existence in Li Yundong's body could not help him. The only thing that could determine his achievements and attainments was his cultivation talent. Chapter 75. Li Yundong felt as if his soul had been pulled out of the original position of the world and lifted to the top, looking down at the chaotic world that had been wrapped in clouds. In this vast and dark world, Li Yundong found that the cloud under his feet gradually formed and condensed into the shape of a girl. Her facial features were clear and lifelike. It was Su Chan. This change shocked and delighted Li Yundong, as if a strange and mysterious door had been opened to him. He was like a child who had gotten a new toy, constantly visualizing one thing to another, never getting tired of it. While Li Yundong was having fun, Su Chan was waiting anxiously. Li Yundong was in her sea of consciousness, but there was no change on the outside. Su Chan was uneasy, afraid that Li Yundong would not be able to pass this test, or that he would not get a good result in this test. What if Yundong can't visualize anything? Su Chan thought about it anxiously. She couldn't help but feel anxious. After thinking for a while, she comforted herself. No, he's so smart. It's impossible that he can't visualize anything. But she felt that this was simply self-deception. What if he can only visualize something of a very low level? If that was the case, wouldn't it be a waste of all his Jindan's Yuanqi? Su Chan couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. If his talent was not high, even with the support of Jindan's Yuanqi, he would not be able to reach the top and become one of the top figures in the cultivation world, such as Taoist Master White Crane of Jingyi School, Supreme Heavenly Master of Scarlet Yang Sect, Master Yuan Kong of Zen Sect, and Mystical Silver Fox, a genius that only appeared once in hundreds of years in her Fox Zen school. The little girl let her imagination run wild. If I can't become a true immortal like them, then I'll settle for the next best thing. Being a free and unfettered itinerant immortal is also a good thing. But what if his talent can't even reach the level of an individual immortal? Then wouldn't I be ashamed of my vow to help Li Yundong become an indomitable master? Su Chan thought to herself in panic. After thinking for a while, a determined look gradually appeared on her face. If he can't even become an individual immortal, then I'll risk being punished and ask Master to open the third eye for Yundong and steal the secret of heaven. While the little girl was thinking about the wind and rain, Li Yundong was having a great time. In an instant, he had visualized hundreds of things, especially when Li Yundong was visualizing distant mountains and rivers. The majestic scene of the mountains and rivers formed by the accumulated clouds and mist really made Li Yundong's blood boil. It was as if he had become the creator of heaven and earth. Under his command, heaven, earth, mountains, rivers, stars, sun and moon, he could have anything he wanted. Wouldn't I become a deity like the founding Gautama Buddha or Hong Jun? Li Yunyang was secretly amused. For a moment he became playful. Thinking of Buddha, he began to visualize the appearance of Buddha. This visualization was incredible. Suddenly, the world in his sea of consciousness rumbled like rolling thunder, and the sound of thunder could be heard. These clouds did not form the appearance of Buddha according to Li Yundong's thoughts. Instead, they kept boiling and floating up as if they were going to roll over Li Yundong's head. Li Yunyang was startled and immediately stopped visualizing the Buddha. As soon as he stopped, the churning clouds immediately sank. Li Yundong was puzzled. Why can't I visualize Buddha? Is it against the rules? Li Yundong's guess was not wrong at all. There were two major taboos for cultivators. One was to use magic on mortals, which would attract divine punishment. The other was to visualize gods when one was not strong enough. Seeing that Buddha's visualization had failed, Li Yundong did not force himself to visualize Buddha. He turned to visualize the lotus throne under Buddha. If I can't visualize Buddha, I can also visualize the lotus throne. Since ancient times, most of these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have been sitting on the lotus throne, haven't they? Li Yundong thought to himself. As he visualized, the airflow in the sea of clouds slowly condensed together. At first, the airflow seemed very irregular. Li Yundong felt that the airflow in the sea of clouds was constantly trying to escape. This had never happened when he was visualizing it before. He couldn't help but become more and more focused, putting all his mind into the visualization of the lotus throne. As Li Yundong visualized, the thick airflow in the clouds gradually formed the shape of a lotus throne. Slowly, the shape of lotus leaves and lotus petals appeared on the edge. Seeing that his visualization was effective, Li Yundong was overjoyed. He continued to think, "It's not good to see the lotus throne empty. I have to have lotus seeds." With this thought, there was a faint ray of light in the dark and rolling clouds, like a dot of starlight on the lotus throne. Li Yundong took a look and found that this dot of light was exactly like a lotus seed. He laughed and said, "Only one lotus seed won't do. More." Then small bright spots appeared on the lotus throne one after another. Gradually, the dark world where Li Yundong was illuminated by the light of these lotus seeds. Even the lotus petals around the lotus throne were crystal clear, which was very beautiful, like a lotus lantern in the dark night. Li Yundong looked at the lotus throne in front of him with satisfaction. He reached out to touch it. Although Li Yundong was just a group of nothingness at this time, as soon as he reached out his hand, the lotus petals of the lotus throne immediately rolled and closed, turning into a budding lotus bud. Li Yundong was stunned and had the idea of withdrawing his hand. As soon as this idea arose, the budding lotus bloomed in an instant. The light was dazzling and the petals were gorgeous. It was so dazzling that it made the spirit space shine so brightly that he couldn't open his eyes. Li Yundong was surprised and happy. He only felt that it was magical and fun. He reached out to touch it again, but the lotus throne changed into the shape of a lotus again. He laughed and repeated it like a naughty child until he did it 9 times in a row. At the end of the 9th time, Li Yundong visualized again, but suddenly the lotus throne exploded with a bang. The petals flew everywhere like falling flowers. Many crystal lotus seeds flew out of the lotus throne and went into Li Yundong's body like meteors. Li Yundong's body shook violently and he opened his eyes. He woke up from the visualization. He gasped and his eyes were wide open, as if he couldn't believe what had just happened. Seeing that he had woken up, Su-chan was surprised and happy. She asked carefully, "Yundong, what did you visualize?" Li Yundong panted for a long time. After gradually calming down, he said with a strange expression, "A lot of things." Su-chan was shocked and thought to herself, "Only by visualizing the simplest things can I easily visualize a lot. Could it be?" She couldn't help asking, "What are they?" Li Yundong briefly described the things he had visualized one by one, including birds and beasts, flowers, birds, fish, insects, mountains, rivers and everything. Finally, he remembered something and said with a smile, "By the way, I also visualized you." When Su-chan had heard what Li Yundong had said before, she had been a little worried. These things were the easiest to visualize because although the mountains and rivers were majestic and mighty, most of them were dead things. As for the flowers, birds, fish, insects, birds and beasts, they were all living things without spirituality, so they couldn't test a cultivator's talent and comprehension. When Su-chan heard that Li Yundong had visualized herself, she was immediately delighted and asked, "You thought of me. How about it? Do I look like you?" Humans were the most intelligent beings in all living things. They were born with intelligence and had different appearances, so it was very difficult to visualize them. Especially to visualize them with both form and spirit, it was even more difficult. It was impossible to do it unless one was exceptionally talented and intelligent. Li Yundong smiled proudly and said, "Of course it's exactly the same." Su-chan was overjoyed, and the worry that had been hanging in her heart suddenly disappeared. She beamed, hugged Li Yundong and kissed him hard. "Great, great." Li Yundong also took the opportunity to hug the little girl and kiss her. "How about it? I'm amazing, right?" The little girl nodded her head like a rattle drum and smiled happily. "Amazing, even more amazing than I thought." Li Yundong chuckled. He suddenly thought of the strange situation that had occurred when he had visualized Buddha, so he told Su-chan about the strange situation that had occurred when he had been visualizing Buddha. When Su-chan heard this, she suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. She looked at Li Yundong in horror and said in a trembling voice, You actually went to visualize Buddha? Are you crazy?" Visualization meant how strong and rich a person's spiritual force and creativity were. Cultivators could visualize anything, but they couldn't visualize gods. This was because cultivators had to visualize in their own bodies and in their own sea of consciousness. In their own sea of consciousness, people had souls, which were their own gods. However, when cultivators visualized gods, it meant that the spiritual force in their bodies was connected with the power of the gods existing in heaven and earth. Not only would it attract the thunder punishment between heaven and earth, but it would also attract the power of the gods into their own bodies, causing a situation where their own gods would be obliterated. Li Yundong's visualization of Buddha immediately caused his own sea of consciousness to surge and boil, and his soul was almost destroyed. However, he was completely unaware of it and had no idea that he had taken a turn at the gate of hell. Su Chan's face was full of horror, which made Li Yundong very confused. After Su Chan explained the reason with a pale face, Li Yundong was skeptical, but he remembered in his heart that he shouldn't let his imagination run wild, otherwise he would be possessed by the devil. Su Chan stared at Li Yundong with wide eyes and stammered, "You said that I'm a fool, but I think you're the real fool." Li Yundong's eyes widened. Li Yundong pretended to be angry and said, "Nonsense. Be careful or I'll spank you." Su Chan played with him for a while, and the previous fear slowly dissipated. She said very casually, "In short, don't visualize randomly in the future. If there's nothing else to visualize, just visualize the lotus throne." Visualizing the lotus throne was the last task of the second heaven of chi refining. The lotus throne was the most difficult thing to visualize in the visualization method. Because the lotus throne was not only complicated, but also the most spiritual thing in all things. Although it was born from mud, it was not the slightest bit dirty. Not only were the petals beautiful and dignified, but the lotus seeds it produced were also fresh and sweet, and had the effect of nourishing health and medicine. The birth of lotus seeds also symbolized the cultivation process of cultivators. At the beginning, cultivating with the body of a mortal, a monster, didn't it symbolize growing in mud? Once the cultivation was successful and the flowers bloomed and bore fruit, wouldn't the nidin correspond to the lotus seeds produced in the lotus throne? After Su Chan finished speaking, Li Yundong laughed and said, "I've already visualized it for a long time, and I even visualized it 9 times in a row. Later, the lotus throne I visualized exploded, so I woke up." As soon as he said this, Su Chan suddenly widened her eyes and looked at Li Yundong as if she was looking at a monster, speechless for a long time. Li Yundong stretched out his hand and waved it in front of her eyes. "Hey, are you scared by me?" Su Chan looked at Li Yundong in shock and said, You visualized the lotus throne? And you visualized it 9 times in a row? Don't talk big." Li Yundong said unhappily, "Who's talking big? You don't believe me." So, he told her the process of his visualization and his feelings. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.